My clock here, so we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we will begin with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Matthew.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so we will now have our roll call starting at my left. Ann
Allen, no conflicts.
John Lyons, no conflicts.
Matt Wheelwright, no conflicts.
Lisa Jensen, no conflicts.
Melissa Kendall, no conflicts.
Daniel Gonzalez, no conflicts.
Joel Temple, no conflicts.
and Jonathan Hill, no conflicts. So before we go to our first item, let me read a quick statement on proper decorum during the meeting. Although this is a public hearing, only the presenters and those invited by the commission may speak or ask questions unless otherwise invited by the chair. Please wait to speak until called on. When speaking, be sure to speak into the microphone so that the record is clear. Please begin by stating your name and city of residence for that record. Please limit side conversations as they interfere with the audio recording. If you need to have a conversation, please step out of the chambers. Please do not attempt to interrupt or speak over others. Intimidating or threatening speech or behavior will not be tolerated at any time. Please refrain from clapping, cheering, booing, or being otherwise disruptive during the hearing. Okay, so with that, we will go to our first item tonight. Provo Public Works requests Ordinance Text Amendments to Provo City Code 15.05.180, Floodplain Management and Development Standards to adapt new FEMA maps and update language within the ordinance. Hannah Salzel is the planner assigned to this item. However, as it is the Public Works request, we're wanting to go ahead and invite Thomas Sherbel to come forward and make the staff presentation.
Hello, my name is Tommy Sherbel. I work for Provo City Public Works as a stormwater engineer. I have with me Ben Rude from WSP to help me, because he wrote this primarily, and then we edited it plenty. Yes. All right, so we are a part of the NFIP, which is the FEMA National Flood Insurance Program. In order to do that, we had to apply to be a part of the NFIP and adopt a resolution of intent to participate. What this ordinance does is adopts and enforces an updated floodplain management that meets or exceeds FEMA's minimum standards. This was done because of the FEMA floodplain maps. They are also called firms. You may see that reference throughout the slides. And then we also need to enforce this development regulations so that within the flood hazard areas. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about what the difference is between the old ordinance and the updated ordinance. We have lengthened it a lot due to FEMA's recommendation for the lengthening. We have added additional definitions for clarity, given administrative authority, given detailed procedures for floodplain development permits, and detailed procedures to make map revisions. These are called CLOMARs or LOMARs. We'll speak of those later. We also have updated floodproofing measures, as well as added a V zone, which is within the map itself. It shows where the lake meets land and has a wave action, is what it is called. Again, we'll go a little farther into that. But how this affects planning / development, we aren't changing the freeboard requirement within the floodplain. This is for specifically remodels in the floodplain and will be required to follow standards in any new additions as well as any new building. There will be floodproofing measures in the airport facilities. As you will see shortly, our entire airport is now in the floodplain according to FEMA. So I want at this time just to reiterate that this is a FEMA directive. It's a community-led initiative, but it is FEMA, it's the FEMA regulation for us. So this will also about conditional letter of map revisions required for larger sites and low MARs for all sites within the floodplain. So what I'm going to do here is kind of show you what the old maps look like and what the new maps look like. And for those of you that are as confused as I was the first time I looked at these maps, anything in the blue on both of these maps is in the special flood hazard area. That means that in any given typical year, that it will be a 1% chance that area could be flooded and inundated with water. So as you can see over on the left map, these are the same aerial photographs, just updated. There's significant flooding occurring in the new maps shown that it will occur. And that is due to the fact that FEMA is mapping these firms as if there were no levee on the river. And so that you can tell right there at Lakeshore Drive. I think there's up here. Okay. Up here, this is where our new diversion is happening, and we have the delta now. But at the time of this study, they did not have that. And we are currently working on what is called LOMAR for that purpose to show that the delta is actually working as intended. But according to FEMA, this will this will all flood in a again 1% chance storm. So I have multiple other changes shown here. You can see the difference between these two, where the airport is. And you can tell the extent of what the new study is showing as if the entire airport is being flooded during these storms due to the levees being decertified. And these are all just to show that change. So this is a long time coming. I know that it's been talked about and referred to since the late 80s. And we've had discussions throughout that time, from my understanding. But this update is from around 2017. 2018 is when they started their initial, from my understanding, search into this area. And so we as a city will be following these maps until we can get revisions based off of new data that it was not available for FEMA. And that's what we'll be working on throughout the next. All right, any questions?
Okay, we'll start with John.
Yeah, I have a number of questions. First a question, impact to the airport if it's declared in a floodplain, impact to the homeowners in those areas. What'll happen to them? Does that change insurance? Does that change construction for permitted areas that are not being constructed or planned? What's the impact for all of this?
Right. So there are about 115 homes that are currently built that are going to be mapped into the floodplain. And these residents will have a flood insurance mandated on their federally backed mortgages. And so it is a pretty substantial number of people there that will have now flood insurance that weren't previously required to have it. It'll be required now.
You have any wild guess what that would add to a premium or what that is?
If they were paying any in the first place because they were not mapped in the floodplain, it would be the most, if you're in the floodplain, it's the most that it can be. I don't know what like.
Yeah, so if you today you're not in a floodplain, we adopt this, you're now magically in a floodplain.
Correct.
How much more would your insurance go up? Is it double, triple? Do you have any feel for that at all?
Again, it depends. Yeah. Ben, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I'm Ben Rude with WSP, so I helped put some of this together. But there is a online, basically an online platform that you'd go on to and get your quote on what that would be. I've done it for my own home. I'm not in the floodplain, and it was around $400. Typical is from like, 400 up to 2,000 a year for flood insurance.
Okay, thank you.
And so you're looking at that kind of range for residents, depending on how close they are to the river and how deep that water is at their structure. So the deeper the water, obviously, the more their rate's going to be for flood insurance to protect their home. Usually covers $250,000 worth of damage is the cap on that insurance. So that's what they're required to carry. They're in the floodplain.
Okay, thank you. What's the impact to the airport if it's now in a floodplain?
We're working through that as well. That's a big question as well, I believe.
Yeah, so the airport, obviously, it's a city building. It's going to be a city structure. So the city gets to kind of determine, okay, what do we have in terms of requirements there for loans? Are the loans going to be required to carry insurance for the city structure? But in terms of development, you just have to meet the minimum standards for continuing to expand and build the airport. It can be in the floodplain. FAA obviously doesn't like it in the floodplain, but it's in the floodplain. So at this point, they just have to meet those minimum standards that the Federal Aviation Administration will put on the project to make sure that it's not causing an increase in the flood depths and things like that. So,
But it'll add an increase to the cost. So the cost estimates we have were not valid now, right?
it will potentially increase the costs. I think that generally floodproofing materials that are used for construction are generally floodproof. But depending on what part of the structure is, but if you're looking at, 6 inches of water, that's pretty easy to floodproof against as opposed to 6 feet. But we're talking like 6 inches of water. So
sorry if I add too many questions. Help me quantify 1% chance of flooding. Is that 1% per day? So it's 3 events per year? Is that one event per year? So it's 100 years? What are we talking about?
It's a 1% chance of flooding every year.
So it's a once in 100 years kind of thing.
That's, yeah.
If I understood right, you said that this is as if there was no levee on the river. On this path, we have to put these people at these extra costs that are not actually real in the sense because there is a levee, they're not really at the same risk that the paperwork says they would be. And so then how long will it take to get this straight so they don't have to be in this situation? Is that a month, a year, a decade?
It depends on, yeah, we are working on it actively.
Happens if we delay and we don't participate? Our city. Happens if we delay until that happens.
Right. So we currently within the NFIP, we currently have a 10% discount on all flood insurance for our residents. We are a rank 8 is what they call it. And if that were to happen, then we would then put on additional on anybody that has a flood insurance currently through that.
Do you have any feel how many citizens or things that affects?
I don't have that.
We would certainly want to know that so we can kind of, it's hurt somebody, whichever direction we had. When's the deadline? When do we have to have this in place?
So these FEMA has required it for June 23rd of this year. And we've
How long's the discount in place?
What do you mean by?
Well, you said it was an 8% discount, right? Is that forever and ever, or is that the first 3 years?
That's as long as we are part of the the program from FEMA, the CRS program.
So we need to know if we have any, do we have many homes? Do you know of any that are in this, that are getting flood insurance through FEMA?
From my understanding, we have no homes that are in the FEMA floodplain currently, as the previous maps, the current maps.
So if we were on probation, what's the impact? And if it won't impact any particular home, what would it impact? The city buildings?
Yeah,
I think we would need to look up the number of current residents that are currently carrying flood policies that are receiving that discount. We don't have that number with us, but we could look that up for sure if FEMA has that information on how many policies there are within Provo City. I think the other big impacts is federally backed mortgages. Obviously, mortgage companies want to lend money to people that have, flood insurance. If they're in the special flood hazard area, they're going to have these maps, regardless of whether you participate in the NFIP or not. If you choose not to participate, then there's a risk that mortgage companies pull out of Provo because they're saying, hey, we can't lend money to people that aren't going to back their homes in these areas.
Only in those areas where new construction might be going on, right?
In the areas where the flood impact is. So current homes or future homes that are currently covered by federally backed mortgages.
Could you put up that first map again?
yes.
That shows on the left, it's current, and on the right, it's the new proposed.
Right.
And there's 115 homes that are impacted in that area.
Yep. That's primarily where all of them are.
If you're by the river, near the delta, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Another impact is if there were to be an event where there is flooding, we would not receive any federal funding due to not being part of their program.
Is there any way we can put political pressure on FEMA to get this turned around quickly so that it is appropriate and we're not causing our citizens undue duress as we go through this? Should we call the president? What do we need to do?
Right. I've not gone through that.
Yeah, I think that, we're working to come up with revised maps that will show it more accurately. Is it going to completely remove everything from the floodplain? No. The levees can't be certified. FEMA won't accept them. We looked at reconstructing the levees, and the levees reconstruction costs were on the magnitude of about $70 million, which is hard to stomach when they're,
So what's the
protecting-
issue with the levees? Why won't FEMA certify them?
It has to do with the material they're made out of, and then also the trees that are growing in them. So you can't have trees in levees. Obviously, the roots grow through the levees, cause holes in the levees. The floodwater comes up, it uses those roots as pathways to breach the levee.
So if in fact, our levees are deficient because of that, we should do something about it, right?
Yes. Yep.
Although then you have no trees along the river whatsoever.
Well, if your choice is you flood the people or you take care of the trees, I'm sure I'm not trying to minimize the problem, but I mean, something needs to be done. And then my thinking is that if FEMA is actually correct, that the levees are delinquent or deficient, and these are now in a floodplain, and we are now at risk for these 1% storms, that's something really good that the city should know. We should know about it so we can do something about it.
So I know this has been going on for a long time because I was neighborhood chair out there, and it's been going on when I was there. Now, I heard at the time when this was first shown that the only reason the levees were declassified is because FEMA only has one standard. So a levee on the Mississippi River has to meet the same standards as a levee on the Provo River, even though the hydrodynamics are completely different. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. There's a levee standard that FEMA puts obviously nationally across the board. After Katrina happened, they obviously looked at their levee standards and reaffirmed that, hey, these levee standards are going to be across the nation. And so they've been going through levees and declassifying and decertifying levees because of those standards throughout the United States. So Provo's not the only one in this boat.
Now, it seems like any engineer, though, would tell you that's the wrong standard to have. You should have a mountain stream with reservoirs that control its complete flow, or 90% of its flow, have a different standard than the Mississippi.
Yeah, I agree. And that's something that we pushed back with on FEMA. And unfortunately, it's a federal mandate that came down through their process. And so it's hard to push back on that. It's really hard to get them to understand that we're not the Mississippi River. We don't need to be held to that level of standard. Our levee is 3 feet tall. Theirs is 30 feet tall. There's a difference there in terms of the makeup and the need. But yeah, they're the ones regulating it. They have a standard and they're blanketing that across the whole US. So,
How long have you known about this?
oh, like you said, I think the project started back in about 2017. They formed a local levy partnership team where they brought the city in, they brought in other stakeholders to begin this remapping process. And all along, we've been trying to get them to map it correctly. And unfortunately, the end result is what you're seeing here is what they got to. But
So when did they get to this?
last year,
2023, they had an open house in the rec center where they discussed it was basically the same exact house.
Yeah.
It was June 2023.
And what's your recommendation for us then?
I recommend that we follow the standards that FEMA has provided for us.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the goal should be long-term is get our Congress people to fix the standards.
Agreed.
Right? So, because that's the issue, right? Everything downstream of that is just a result of that issue. Any other questions? Lisa?
When I first read through this, I thought that this was all of FEMA's language and we were just putting it in our code so that it was correct. Is that a correct understanding? Like, is this the sections, these changes, this verbiage, is this directly from FEMA? Is it our language based on FEMA standards? Is it a combo?
Yeah, so we tried to, I guess Ben could talk more into this, but we tried to use they have a template for it, and we tried to use what is specifically for Provo, and then we sent it to them, and they gave us feedback of what they believe also needed to be part of it as well.
So aside from the map that puts a bunch of people in the floodplain, are these standards as far as what you need to do to remediate it, are they significantly different than what Provo already had, or is it just worded differently?
There's a few additions to it because the fact that as obviously FEMA develops their standards have changed, and the ordinance hasn't been updated for probably 10 years now. And so it's adopting those new standards, making sure that we're meeting the FEMA minimum standard across the board. Some of those new standards, things that come up top of my head are the V zones to the lake. That's new. That wasn't in there before. Substantial improvements. So that's a newer FEMA term that basically means if you're in the special flood hazard area and you want to make a substantial improvement to your home, like a remodel that is more than 50% of the value of your home, you have to bring your entire home into compliance with the standard. So that's a substantial improvement.
Wait, doesn't that mean you'd have to lift your home?
That means you would have to lift your home if you want to improve it by 50% of the value of the current home.
That's a silly standard. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so follow up on some of those things you mentioned.
Yep.
Does the V zone change as the water level changes? Like if they're saying the waves are coming here, how do they determine what that is?
It is just due to the 1% chance storm that happens, or the 1% chance flood.
So where they theorize that wave zone would be, and that's
Yeah.
just what we see on the maps here.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's specifically over here by the airport. It's along the shore there where we have the delta and the airport.
Is the orange on this map a greater risk? Is that the 1%?
No, so the orange is what is called the 500-year storm event, or the
5%.
0.2%.
0.2%. Okay, so the orange is actually less severe than the blue,
Correct.
which is interesting because
no,
it's right next to.
it's more severe.
It's more
less frequent.
It's less
but
frequent,
it's more severe.
Okay. And now I have a question about the substantial improvement. As you're reading through, which on our staff report is page 22, but it's the subsection 11, 12, and 13, I think. But in 13, it goes through and talks about like what the criteria are for determining if it's substantial improvement. And what I just heard you say made sense, 50%, but that's not in here. So I was wondering why the language doesn't give me some sort of definition or measure of money or size that
I believe
determines
it's in the definition
substantial
section. So if you go to the definition for what substantial improvement is at the beginning.
Oh, okay. So it's in the definition.
There's a definition.
As I was
there.
reading the rules, I was like,
Right.
so how do I know? Okay.
No, I read it just today and it's in there. So.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. My other question was, are there any other changes in the language that are so significant that people are going to scream? So aside from the map that's going to cause some grief, what other things are in there? Just because it's huge, so we're not going to catch everything, nor do we have the expertise to understand it all. So what are the screen points that we need to be aware of and determine whether that's language we want to have in the ordinance?
I think it actually allows a lot of flexibility for the city because you have a floodplain administrator who gets to make decisions for the city based on the applications that they receive and work with the applicant to be able to identify those screen points and help walk them through those screen points so that they're not, getting to that level. The biggest thing is the maps. Obviously, that's where people are, rubber meets the road. They're going to look at the map and see that they're in the floodplain. That's going to cause concern. Come to the city and then work with the floodplain administrator to help understand what that means for them and for their property. I don't see anything in there that's going to be that alarming.
Will the city proactively notify homeowners or that they now live in a floodplain?
So we have in the past, we invited all, as Mr. Hill said, we invited everybody to the rec center a few years ago to discuss it. We do need to send out more, yes.
I would think it need to be notified when it becomes official or something.
Right.
So it's, earlier we talked about how you're trying to get the maps right based on the delta and the levees. But it sounds like that's not going to matter to them because they've changed, the standard is being held to the Mississippi River. So we're never going to be that, right? So we're really not going to be able to fix this. Is that right?
So the maps will be updated based on the Delta project. That'll help reduce the amount of water that actually flows down towards the airport and through the west side because that diversion will now take it to the north. So it'll reduce the impact. Will it ever get back to what's shown on the, well, I guess it's on my left up there. I think it's on your left. Will it ever get back to showing it totally protected by levee? Not until the levees are built to the FEMA standard or till the standard changes. But we are trying to reduce it as much as possible to try to make it realistic for what is actually out there today. There's quite a few changes that we're working on that'll help reduce the flood extent.
And they'll accept the delta as, they'll accept those efforts.
Yeah, they'll accept those efforts
Okay.
for sure. They allow the city to do the letter of map revision process. That's your tool to be able to change the maps that you regulate to. And so the city will work with the city on that. You guys will present the application to FEMA. FEMA will review it, provide their comments back, and you'll work through that process of correcting the maps to get them to where you want them to be. The nice thing is the city is in control now of that process. The city is working with WSP. We are the ones that are doing that process. The previous maps were done by a consultant hired directly by FEMA in the state of Utah. And the city really didn't have any control over their process, what data they were using and what standards they were doing it to. Whereas now we can go in and do it the way we want it, present that to FEMA, get it fixed, and then those will be the new effective maps that we'll regulate to. So.
Cool. Are there other projects that could be done further to the west in the wetlands there that would maybe help reduce this map even further without having to tackle like a FEMA standard levee project? Like comparable to the Delta project, but maybe not quite that scale.
We have some projects that we're already looking at that are kind of in conjunction with the Delta project, the new park that is there, the Forward River project that is just to the east of Lakeshore. Those are two projects that are already, they're not levees per se, but we were just out there today talking about how the ground has been raised and will impact specifically this area that's going down here. That whole thing is shown as if there's no levee, but now it will have something at least there to show.
And can I also ask, have you got any feedback from the development community how this will impact growth in West Provo? Like, is this raising the cost of development? Is this making it more difficult to build?
It's great questions. The properties that are impacted most with this blue area, they actually are having their standards kind of lowered. I mean, our current standard says that the lake's height is at 4498, and now it's going down to 4495. And some of these zones are showing at 97. So it's all, those areas are going down, and so it is easier for the developers. We were keeping our standard of the 1 foot freeboard. So previously when they needed to be up at 99, they now are down to 96, 97, 98 instead. So that if they're raising up the elevation for their houses, they are bringing in less fill, meaning less expensive for them.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions here. So just so everybody knows, the process then for a new development would be they'd come here, want to get a permit, it'd go through the city, they'd say, hey, you're in a flood zone, you're gonna have to meet these standards. They'd then go do it, elevate the land, do whatever they need to do. And then they then apply for a change in the map to show that they're no longer in the floodplain. Is that kind of this process there?
Correct. So if it's usually with larger projects, we ask them to do something called a conditional letter of map revision, which means that based off their new elevation, they will get FEMA's approval for removing it from the floodplain if they follow the standards that they said they were going to, basically. And that's what we're doing currently for anything that is in the floodplain. So then once they have built, then they need to submit that letter of map revision to FEMA, and they will then receive notification that that is out of the floodplain, and then it will not be, it will still show on our maps because these maps are only revised every 10 years ago, whatever it is, but they will have an amendment to it, a revision where they can, it will be shown that that they're out of the floodplain.
And what if someone is looking at this map and saying, no, wait, when I built my house, I built up the ground, etc. I shouldn't be here, but I am. Is there an appeal process for that as well?
So that is called a LOMA, where the way that they were built previously to this revision, that it was they were already out of the floodplain, and that they just need to show that they need to prove that to FEMA, and then they would also get that similar. It's a free thing for them to do.
So they'd have to get someone to confirm their elevation
exactly.
and standards.
Through
Okay.
And again, they would contact me as the floodplain administrator, and I would help them through that process.
Great. And then lastly, the only text thing I had a concern with in here was on our page 7. It says Provo City's flood hazard information may vary from the official FEMA data maps. In cases where the best available data is more restrictive, the city will use the more stringent flood hazard information in accordance with FEMA guidelines. And so it sounds like what I'm worried about is someone's going to go look at the FEMA map and say, I'm fine. But then the city's going to come back and say, no, we have this other data. And it just gets confusing. So why not just say, we're going with FEMA?
So that's kind of where we've been for the last 2 years. We've had all this new data that is showing that the floodplain is lower in some of these areas, but we have had to stay in the more stringent because of this text in our code. We've had it in our previous code. We've had to stay with the more stringent, which was the 4499 elevation instead of the 4497. And so for us, it is this kind of time period. If and when this happens again, where they will map it again, then there will be new data that shows up, and we'll have to follow the more stringent between the two, because we are then notified that this is more.
But why? Why not just pick a standard like FEMA's and stick with it?
It's typically is FEMA's. It's just the updated version. So like these two are both FEMA maps right now, and we've been having to follow the left map for all this new construction that's happening down near Lakeview. So that, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, so the clause is termed best available data, right? That's kind of the clause that FEMA uses in their ordinance to say, hey, we want you to use the best available data to regulate to, whether that's our map or whether that's another federal agency's map. And they require that in the code because they want to make sure that if there is another study that comes out that updates the map but wasn't their study, but should be regulated to because it provides a higher standard and it's valid, then the city would want to regulate to that and can regulate to that. If you get a study that comes out for one of these other creeks, it doesn't have to be just the Provo River, but it shows that, hey, there's this other creek that has a flood risk on it, and there's a big development that wants to develop there, then the city could say, well, that's the best information we have is that study that's been done. We're going to regulate to that for that development and allow that to be our code for that specific location.
Does the city publish a map? So if you want to know, you just go to the city
We
map
have
and
them
that's,
ready to-
and that's
yeah.
it.
FEMA also has them published, and then, yeah, we have.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah, please.
I'm still stuck on what the, excuse me, what the residents know. I think you said 150 or 180, there are
115 houses.
115,
Mhm.
115 houses. What do they know?
115 Just, sorry, real quick on that. 115 seems incorrect. That must be just in the blue zone.
Just in the blue zone. Yeah, that's all that is
Yeah.
affected by this.
The orange is not affected.
The orange is not affected
Okay.
by it.
Okay.
The orange again is less likely and is not part of the special flood hazard area.
Got it. That makes sense.
Sorry for that confusion.
So those 115 households, what do they think is about to happen? If you said there was an open house a few years ago, what do they actually know about how this will affect them?
I'm not quite sure. I can't.
So it might be
That-
nothing.
It might be nothing.
Okay.
I mean, we sent that out and there was very little turnout in the first place for that.
Yeah.
And we tried to show exactly where those, where it would be affected and like push for that, but there was very little turnout for that in the first place.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we'll continue.
But
to-
we think there's probably for those 115, a fairly significant annual insurance premium shift
Yes.
because of this. If they don't have flood insurance, can they lose an existing loan?
If
Like-
they opt to not get the flood insurance, then the loan, the bank can basically pull their loan back and say, sorry, we're not willing to loan this to you anymore. We're calling our loan due. Pay it or find another loan to pay us off if you're not going to cover the flood insurance. Yes. So
And now-
banks can do that.
Okay, so with that in mind, I'm wondering what the city needs to have in place, either in communication or programs, because are we willing to have 115? It's probably some smaller percentage of that potentially has to move, has to sell their home because they can't afford what's changed on them when nothing's really changed. Like, you understand what I'm asking? Like, where are we at on thinking about that or talking through that?
So yeah, we will be sending out more notices about it. But again, the community will be notified as best as we can, but I don't know exactly how far out after that, what we can do.
Are
Yeah.
those notices that went out previously, were they citywide notices or were they targeted
I think they were
to
targeted
addresses by the owners?
Yeah, I
were
can't
targeted.
speak for everyone, but I know it's been talked about out there quite a bit.
Yeah. They were noticed. They were obviously posted on the city's websites. There were, as many community councils and things they could post that in. FEMA has a process that they go by to try to notify people, but neither one of us were, we weren't the ones doing that notification and running that process. FEMA ran that process and worked with the community to put the meeting on, basically. So we hosted them here at our buildings to show the people the map and tried to get the information out there as best we could. So
Okay, I think that's all the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Since the city is the applicant, we'll go directly to the public comment portion of the item. Before we do so, are there any neighborhood council members here tonight to speak on this item? Okay, so we'll open it up to the general public. You'll have 2 minutes to make a comment, and you can make one comment during the session. When your time is up, you'll hear a ding and your microphone will be muted. This is a time for comments only, and if we have questions, we'll ask you to come back later to follow up on those questions. So with that, we'll go ahead and invite the public up. Okay, not seeing any comments for this item, we'll pull it back to the commission for discussion.
I think that we should always try to align our standards with other standards, and even though it stinks that it doesn't match our maps right now, that this is the right move to move forward and get this aligned and then use our energy to fix the standard if we desire to do that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I said, I've heard about this for, I don't know, 7 years now. And unfortunately, yeah, it's beyond our control, right? The ordinance needs to be what it needs to be. Obviously, there's some issues in how the decisions are made and the standards that are being applied, et cetera, but those are outside of our control at this point. So if people want to put their efforts there, that's where it should be. I do think the several comments about making sure everybody's notified is good. And the one thing I don't know if it's been notified sufficiently, and I would love to see a way to do it, maybe the city could do this, is to talk about the appeal process. I'm thinking of specific newer homes that I'm seeing that live right by me, and they're in the blue and my house is not, and I know their house is uphill from me. Right. And so I'm not understanding how they ended up in there. My only guess is the survey data was in 2016, 2017, before those houses were built. And so I think, you know, letting people know, hey, there's a way to appeal this, to work with the city, to reach out to Tommy and get this fixed would be very beneficial for people.
Well, my initial inclination is to fight this, and I don't like the concept, but sitting through it and thinking about it, realizing take on battles that you have a chance of winning, we would not have a chance of winning this battle. So I agree with the expressed consideration that we probably should do both things: approve it, forward a recommendation for approval, but also identify what are the right things the city can do to help protect our citizens here.
Yeah, man.
And I would add, not just protect them, but educate them. I just can't imagine being a homeowner who maybe knew about it. Oh, the flood map's changing. Oh, that might affect me. And all of a sudden they don't have a loan. Like, I don't even know what that looks like for them and how they deal with that. So some education, some support, because this might be very significant for a number of those homeowners.
Any other thoughts? Are we ready for a motion? Yeah.
Did we look for loopholes?
So I don't want to speak officially for other people, but I was neighborhood chair here through a lot of this process. The mayor at the time spent significant effort on fighting this. John Curtis was our congressional rep. He spent time working on fighting this. Many people spent lots of time fighting this, and it never changed anything. I'm getting a nod here. He'll back that up. Okay. So yeah, so there was significant efforts because of the costs to the citizens and the feeling that, I mean, there's been recent years that have been very high water and the levee did fine. The fact that Deer Creek and Jordanelle control the flow in that river significantly, et cetera, but we never could get through them at all.
What does raising the house, if you want to improve on your house, look like?
I don't know if it's possible. I think it would break the bank. Anybody that got to that would probably just move
Yeah.
and build a new house because it would be cheaper at that point.
Okay.
It basically says you can't.
I mean,
Make it
that's
practice.
harsh in 20 years.
Yeah, that's one particular standard I'm not a big fan of, because as cities fill in and we have less open space to build new homes, that's what you tend to see, right? Is people tend to, my grandparents lived in San Jose, California, and when it got full and expensive with the Silicon Valley, people were knocking down half the house and rebuilding it bigger because that's what you could do, right? That was the only option. And this would say you can't do that anymore, which is unfortunate. But again, we got to talk about, you know, the city ordinance versus what we think the federal government should be doing, because those are two very separate questions with different approaches and a different role for us as a commission.
And what happens if we didn't approve this as a city? I'm not sure it's clear in my mind what actually happens.
You want to comment on that, Tommy?
They take stuff away.
Yeah, so we would be first we would be in oh boy, I just lost the word.
Probation?
Yeah, and then we would be suspended if we lost it totally. So we'd first not have any federal backing for loans, and the 10% would be gone. Where
Within this zone or across the city?
Across the city.
Across.
And then if there is any, if there are any hazards that do happen, if it does flood and something happens to somebody, then there would be no federal backing with that as well. If there was a mass catastrophe for that.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got some severe consequences. Thank you, Tom. Yeah. Okay, we ready for a motion then? Who'd like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion. I recommend that we recommend approval. I move that we recommend approval to the municipal council. Okay, I'm going to read this. We forward a recommendation of approval for the proposed floodplain management and development standards to the city council. And then I would add a suggestion to make sure to educate people about the appeal process to change the map as part of this discussion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? I'll just say thank you for including that part. I'm wondering, when do people have to have insurance by? What's our time? Yeah, come to the microphone so it's on the record.
I believe it is 30 days they have to talk to their mortgage about it.
So by the end of July, essentially.
Wow.
That's how I understand it.
Okay, so it's fast. So yeah, maybe that recommendation should be stronger, that the city should do an education blitz on the need for insurance, which zones are affected, and the appeal process, like all of it together.
Yeah, like
Now
door
would be the
hangers,
time.
specifically those people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Make sure that they get contacted.
Okay, I'm going to assume that you've added that to your notes and we don't need to restate the motion. Is that okay?
Great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start voting. Yeah.
Aye.
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 And I will vote aye, and so the item passes unanimously. Okay, let's go to item 2. David, and I'm probably going to pronounce this incorrectly, Bragonje requests concept plan approval for a 46-unit condominium development in a proposed Pro A10 Arbors on the Avenue zone located at 5568 North Canyon Road, and Aaron Arbor will present that for us.
And could you also read in item 3 as they're related?
Yes, thank you. David Bragonje requests a zone map amendment from the MDR zone to the Pro A10 zone, along with amendments to the development agreement in order to develop a 46-unit condominium project located at 5568 North Canyon Road.
Okay, thank you. So some of you that have served on this plan commission for the last couple of years may recognize this property and this project. So Mr. Bragonje has been through this a couple of times. The latest one was to get to the MDR zone with the 16 townhome units that was approved by the council and solidified with a development agreement. The major concern at the time with that was sewer infrastructure. In continued discussions with Public Works, there's a solution for that. So he has now come back with a project to provide 46 condo units rather than 16 townhome units. The maps here can show you how that complies with the vision for the area. So the general plan map is residential, that's kind of vague, but we do have the Northeast Neighborhood Plan that identifies this property as a potential for medium density residential density. The zone that he's looking at now still falls within that density limit. His project itself is quite a bit lower than what would be permitted. It's just under 8 units per acre, but it does provide a lot more for sale units, which is a priority for the city and for the council. So he's come back with this. He's provided a concept plan that has shown to meet the requirements of the Arbors on the Avenue zone that he's requesting. Now, a part of this will be with the city council to amend the development agreement. We won't get into that tonight. But staff has reviewed this project and and finds that it does comply with that proposed zone. And that the zone does comply with the general plan. So maybe I'll just leave it at that and open it up to questions if you have any.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Questions? Matt first, then we'll go Lisa.
Can you expound on what's actually different in the sewer?
We have people here that can. If David Day wants to come up and kind of inform us on what was found over the past couple of years with that and the solutions that have been found to open this project up to more than 16 units, I think that would be helpful.
Hi, David Day with Provo City Public Works. Yeah, so after we got through that last proposal with David on his project here, we entered into a study with a consultant to further analyze all of our sewer infrastructure in this area. And after we got through with that study, we realized that we had enough capacity to accommodate this project. So we reached back out to him and said, hey, I don't know if we said sorry, but we should have. And maybe you should look at proposing a higher density here, because it seemed like that everyone liked it. And the only thing that was holding it back was the sewer capacity. So we offered that out to him, that we had found a solution to his sewer problem.
But it's not really a solution. It's just better data, better analysis.
Mostly better data. We try to be real conservative with sewer flows and to avoid, sewer backups into homes and stuff like that. So after we had put flow meters in many locations down through here, we found that we could accommodate more sewer.
Okay, cool.
So it was lack of information that made us nervous about supporting it.
Okay. And then Aaron, a follow-up, how does this relate, the zoning change relate to the new zoning code text and things that are being worked on? Do we have any concern about that? You referenced the arbors on the avenues code or zone, but I thought in the new code amendments, we're going to consolidate a lot. How does
Correct.
this relate to that?
Yeah, so while we're not supporting any new pro zones, the applicant found an opportunity here with an existing pro zone. But the point you're making is just like any other pro zone in the city, our proposal with the Title 14 rewrite will be to remove all of the pro zones from the city code and eventually rezone those properties to the best matching multifamily zone. So as far as this development goes, if the council sees fit, they could approve this pro zone. He can develop to that zone. And then when the city adopts the new code and goes through the rezoning process, we'll just find the best match for the development.
Can I follow up on that real quick? So I'm guessing the change is because of building height, right? It's too tall for MDR.
There's a few standards, and the applicant can speak to those better when it's his turn. The height was a big one, the location of parking and the frontage, the design standards. Several factors I think played into better fitting the concept that he had, rather than trying to design something to a zone that's already there.
So if I can throw out a hypothetical for fun. So let's say, for whatever reason, financing, whatever, the building gets delayed, the code goes through, it changes. Now it's like high density residential because that's the only zone that fits or something. Would he have rights to develop at even higher densities at that point?
That's a great question. I think in this case, because there's going to be a development agreement attached to this, that development agreement still holds.
So it could cover those kinds of
It would.
tendencies.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Lisa?
Something that you just said made me think of a follow-up question there, but I don't remember what it was. So, okay. Before David Day gets too comfortable, the map, I remember there being a road that was, Canyon Road was coming down and connecting with University Avenue, and it was being realigned. Is this the intersection where that was happening, or was it further up?
It is, and the access to the property is accommodating that. So
Because it looks like it's still a sharp curve there, and I thought I remembered it curving in further and coming straight onto the intersection.
so this road that just got the signal, eventually will loop around like that and back down into Canyon. So that's why his access and his building location is what it is. So it can still accommodate that future looping road.
But the
And have
map here
access.
doesn't reflect where the
Right,
road's
right,
planned to be.
'cause that's a
Okay,
future
I was
project.
confused by that. I was like, I thought there was a road here, and that was part of when we talked about the 16 units, why they were tucked over there.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the standards, maybe this was the thing I was thinking of, the ProZone standards for this ProZone were better for the height and the placement of the building and the setbacks. One of the things I don't like about this concept plan is that the parking lot is on the roadside instead of hiding somewhere, like it's what you see. And so is that something that's not usually allowed with a design standard in other zones, but it is allowed in this particular one?
So yeah, so the multifamily zones would state that the parking has to be behind the building or just not between the building and the street
Right.
frontage. I think in this case, I mean, the applicant can speak to this, but in this case, there's a great difference. There's barriers to the hillside there as you move east. The hillside starts going up.
So the landscaping standards might take care of the visual obstruction there?
I believe so.
Okay. Back when the 16 units was passed, were there other reasons for approval that you remember that the Planning Commission discussed besides limiting the units? Like, I don't even remember that it was about sewer. The only discussion I remember was about that
The other
access
big
road.
thing was that the neighborhood plan wasn't done at the time.
Okay. And according to your report, this is fine with the
This
neighborhood
fits
plan,
with
the
the
general
neighborhood
plan,
plan.
all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was it. Thank you.
So I have a few questions. Can you talk about the height a little bit? This is much taller than anything else in the neighborhood, right? But the neighborhood plan supports this type of development here?
Yeah, I mean, the neighborhood plan doesn't get into height per se. But you can see from that cross section on the right of the page that there's 4 stories above ground. You'll see over in the Riverwoods Business Park similar heights. So
across. Okay.
Yeah.
Does the city have any concern about the size of the building or the height of the building at all?
No, it meets this proposed zone. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Questions over here?
So I was neighborhood district chair when this came through, previous. So this plan is my favorite of the versions we saw over the timeline. But I seem to recall that there was a water looping need in that area, that the system kind of dead ends. Does this new plan already contemplate connecting those looping? Because that's part of the reason I was a proponent of this, is because it would prompt solving some what I think are water problems in the area. Is that still accurate, or do I not remember that correctly?
Yeah, you're not seeing it on this plan, but that's still going to be a water system that connects across University Avenue.
Which is better for the community, right?
It is, yes.
Okay. Is that in the development agreement?
It
Or
will
would be?
on the site plan
Okay.
when we get that far. So we don't have that in a concept plan for rezone, but
Okay.
we have an approved plan for the 16 units that already shows that. So we'll just take that
Okay.
same concept when we go forward with project plan.
yeah, it definitely improves the infrastructure in the area. It brings it closer to undeveloped areas.
Great. Any questions on my right here? None? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and invite the applicant forward at this time, and you'll have 15 minutes for your presentation.
Hi, good evening. David Bragonje, Cedar Hills. I'll just start out by addressing a couple questions that you had. One of them was the height. The main reason that the zone change is requested is to allow the parking to be in front of the building. That's what's happened with the other arbors on the Avenue Pro zone to the south. That works just with the layout of the lots along University on the east side in that area. Also, this is a current approval for townhomes. You can see the plan is already for 4 stories of townhomes set closer to the road. So I don't think that there's going to be a big height difference. Also, you can't really tell with the landscape or the mountain in the back. There's a big cut into the hill, and so there's not, it's not going to obstruct views or anything. It's going to cover up the cut that's already there. That was something that was discussed before. There's nothing behind this. Just a cut hill that will be blocked. Let's see here. Okay. So a benefit of this project is you have the front of the building there as well. I think that fits in better with what's been built in other places. The front of a building is just going to look better. Also, you can put most of your higher quality architectural materials on the front of the building where they're visible and end up with a nicer building. As mentioned before, with the parking being in the front, the site's elevated. It will continue to be elevated. You can't see the flat area from University there, and you won't be able to afterwards. So this parking lot won't be visible from University. And there are other buildings in the area that are this height, as was mentioned, including the plan that will be kitty corner across the new stoplight there. The plan is for an office building there that will, it'll be 4 stories, as I recall. Let's see. Some other benefits. Obviously, these are smaller units than the townhomes would be. They will sell for less. One of my favorite things about the plan originally was just I thought that in this area with condos that are for sale, that there'd be a large appeal from older individuals who've aged out or aging out of their current homes in the area. I felt like this would fulfill a need, and also it would make it more affordable for first-time home buyers. And I say more affordable just because it seems like affordability is not really an option out there right now. Let's see. The units will be majority owner occupied. That's in my current development agreement. That will impose a certain level of market discipline on the project to make sure that it's done well, it looks good. In the end, you're going to have to sell units to people who want to buy and live there. Also, the units will be about 1,525 square feet on average. The way it's drawn up right now, they're mostly 3-bedroom with 8 of them as 2-bedroom, and you could change that. The parking requirements are the same whether they're 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, so you could change that mix, but I feel like that's probably the best mix to have. So maybe the 2-bedroom units would be a little bit smaller, but the 3-bedroom would be a little bit bigger, but still under 1,600 square feet. Based on state law, that's considered affordable towards some metrics. And anyway, that may help out the city as they're reporting affordable housing built in the city. I don't know if I have any more slides here. I'm definitely not.
That must be the end.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the applicant, John?
So a few questions. So majority owner occupied, is the intent then to just over 50% become owner occupied and 50% become leased or rented out?
No, that's not the intent. The agreement with the city is just that a minimum of a majority have to be owner occupied. In order for individuals to get financing in the building, there's tighter requirements than that as well. So,
Okay,
plus by making most of them owner occupied, that means it's a condo, it's an HOA. There's financing requirements. It opens them all up to be owner occupied.
Okay, so then what's their plan for renting or leasing them? How is that going to be managed? We have an on-site leasing office, one organization take care of it, or is it going to be open for
No, again, it would be an HOA that manages it for the owners. Usually you have a HOA board and then you hire a professional company that runs the HOA's daily business.
Okay, so the renting would be part of that?
I haven't contemplated how any renting would work. I imagine that would have to be handled by individuals who own the units.
Oh, okay, I understand. So it might be owned by an individual corporation and okay, not occupied, okay. Okay. Had a few more questions, but they're slipped my mind right now.
Any other questions?
Yeah. I see, since we have approval of the design, I wanted to ask about why you mixed flat roof with these gables.
I mean, the simple answer is that's what my AI engine came up with, but I like this one. I put this one in here because I liked it the best. There was another one that was good as well. You want a flat roof, just for construction purposes. You want to be able to put all of the
air conditioners
on the top. There's other reasons to have a flat roof. A flat roof doesn't look the best, and so you want to do some things to embellish it, make it look better. I thought that this looked good to have some of these elements. I mean, you can see this as a standard upgrade on homes right now, if you will, of, some parts of the roof that are metal. So I just thought it was kind of the style that's out there.
Wondered about it piercing through these gables.
I think
But
everything that's
you
shown here
answered-
could be built. My bigger question would be snow. If you need to put in I don't know, sometimes snow slides right off of a metal roof. That would be something to consider. And you could put things up there to stop the snow from sliding. But other than that, I think this can be built.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Wouldn't be a good planning commission without a conversation about parking. So let me ask a parking question. So you meet the parking requirement, 104 total spaces, that's what's required. But unlike some other properties, there's really no place for overflow to go, right? There's nothing close by where you could park on the street anyway. So that's good and bad. So I would it's not really a question, just a suggestion that you think hard about what's maximum parking really look like, because there's nowhere to go. And if they end up the hill or out on, you can't park on Canyon. So there's some weird dynamics there about parking. So I just think hard about that. You meet the requirements, so it's fine, but think hard about your tenants and how they live.
If I could maybe comment on an earlier comment that was made about water and how the water will be looped. I know it's not a city utility, but also gas needs to be looped in this area. There's low gas pressure, and the gas is in the same place as the water, about 500 feet up Canyon Road, and then on the other side of University. So that also will be looped as part of this, and will improve gas pressure. Also Google Fiber as well. They said it helps a little. I was like, I don't understand why looping that one would help, but
Yeah, that seems
they
odd.
said it does a little. I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we'll move to public comment. Before we start, are there any district chairs or board members here? Excellent. We'll invite you up first. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comment, after which we'll open it up to the general public.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Morrow, North District Board, and I'm also the North Tenview representative. And Mr. Bragonje's item was heard on April 1st, 2026 in the North District meeting across the way. Sharon Memmott is our chair. She's unable to attend, so I'm here representing. The results of the meeting, I'll just stick directly with what happened. The results of the meeting, David Bragonje is asking for a zone change to build 46-unit condo at 5565 North Canyon Road. Questions were raised about the structural safety given on the hillside, and then an opinion poll was conducted with 3 options. 1, favoring the project as proposed with no development agreement or restrictions. Nobody voted for that. The second option was favoring the project with a development agreement, limiting it to 4 units. 10 people voted in favor of that. The third was maintaining current approval for MDR with development agreement for 16 units. 13 people voted for that. The Bragonje project that most people were concerned with during the meeting was that the project was getting bigger. You have to understand that this project has come before the neighborhood over many, many years prior to even this developer. And so they feel like it's just getting bigger. They were concerned that the rezone would mean a loss of the current developmental agreement. And in fact, that was the driving force in the meeting. They felt that at the very least, another development agreement should be put in place, limiting the maximum number of units in the project to the current request. But they really preferred it to stay in the zone that it's in now. But if it moves forward, could we at least have it tight that, hey, because as proposed that once the zoning changes again, that he's still limited to this. And that's my report from this meeting.
Great, thank you. We'll now open it to the general public. Each of you will have 2 minutes to make your comment, and each person may make 1 comment. You may come forward now if you want to comment on this item.
I'm Victoria Baird. I am Provo resident, just down the street from this. I just wanted to bring up the idea of potential traffic along the way, just along Canyon Road, in making something bigger that means a lot more flow. I have found that people go extremely fast on that road, and just something to keep in mind of how it will impact the actual traffic flow, because there are also a lot of children that walk and drive 4-wheelers on there.
Great, thank you.
I'm Jenny Smith. I'm kind of a neighbor of that property right there. And Lisa Jensen asked about the where Canyon Road and University Avenue and all that, the junction of that. And I just wanted to, because of what you asked in the reply, my question is, what's the timetable on fixing the road? Because I remember that big conversation where and the neighbors are under the impression that that would happen when this occurred, because the road would go up, be looped around. But that timeline wasn't discussed with this. It's like, oh, that's sometime in the future. But with this, if this was approved tomorrow and it started happening tomorrow, is there a timeline for that? Or is it, because that's really going to impact Canyon Road and the intersection there, the light. I mean, there's so much going on there already. So I'm just putting that out there. I don't know if any of you can answer that question, but that's something that should be addressed, because the neighbors were under the impression at that time when this was discussed before that it would happen when that occurred. And it doesn't sound like that's part of it.
Great, thank you. Any other comments for this item?
How's it going? I'm Garrett Kraus, also a Provo resident. Just curious how this will affect access to the Indian Road trailhead, which is just up the street from this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Steve Turley. I own property that's just adjacent, and I agree with Jenny Smith, who just talked about that access road. If how do I do this without blowing things up? You push it? I don't want to do that. On the screen, you'll see the white where that road intersects with that Indian Trailhead Road. That I can't understand how that is a safe distance from that intersection. I mean, there has to be a certain offset. And that sure seems tight. And if the development goes ahead and then that intersection isn't reconfigured for quite some time, that Indian Road trailhead would be a nightmare for anybody up from there, so east from there. And that not only affects those of us that are local landowners, but the next item on your agenda, a subdivision of 155 lots that would be stacking right there in that area. And if everybody wanted to go to church on Sunday, that intersection is going to be a pretty tough place to get out. And I know there's other needs for people to travel at the same time, but I would hope that this commission would strongly recommend to the council to make sure that development agreement incorporates whatever is necessary to make sure that reconstruction of that area or the initial construction actually works in case it never redevelops. And if it does redevelop, that there's the necessary, allowances to make sure that is reconstructed right, so that Indian Trailhead Road doesn't become obsolete. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, final call for comments on this item. Okay, not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back. Oh, you have a comment to read?
Yeah,
go
did
ahead.
you get the one from Robert Drews?
I have not.
Okay.
No.
So there's email from Robert Drews. I'll just read the email he sent. I write in opposition to the proposed construction of Foothill Orchard proposal, which is the next one, the condo project at 5568 North Canyon Road, which is this one, and townhouse proposal not on your agenda tonight. I'm mostly concerned with the impact of the increased traffic upon youth as well as others. There have been a steep increase in recent years in the use by youth of various motorized two-wheeled and four-wheeled motorized vehicles, too small to be registered, yet they are fast and often ridden awkwardly. In the hands of untrained drivers, they often make quick no-look change of lanes, accelerate without looking from side streets into traffic, and so on. In addition, with the arrival of the Little Caesars and Provo Burger, the volume of high school traffic at lunchtime and at other times is increasing the volume of youth traffic that irregularly uses the pedestrian sign lights. In the warmer weather, these dangers are exacerbated. This is the situation even now. The danger would be compounded by the addition of the proposed developments. So please do not support these three projects. Thank you for your consideration. Bob, just wanted to read that into record. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back. That's on the next one. We do have another email, but it's for the next item here. So what comments do we have, thoughts on this item? Go ahead, John.
So I wonder about, so in general, the proposal seems to be reasonable. And I like the 46 units for at least the items for sale at least have to be owner occupied. But I wonder about imposing conditions. So conditions to consider substantially conform to the plan as indicated here. So major deviations, even minor deviations from the plan, would need to come back for reapproval. Set the max unit count at 46. Set the building height limited to no higher than what's presented here. The parking, even though the unit count is there, I agree with Matt that having some consideration for visitor parking seems appropriate. I don't know if we can specify that or not. Make condition that the traffic improvements, be implemented as part of this plan. Would be another condition. It seems very reasonable to ask with all the things that were just presented to us. Something we didn't really talk about much that probably should have brought up is you start looking at snow loading and snow storage. We didn't get snow this year, but many years we do. If you have a tight parking and no place to snow, I'd like to figure out when they have to plow the snow, where's it going to go? Are they going to block just some considerations? So there's a way to take care of that.
Those are good considerations. One of those I want to follow up on. David, do you know the schedule, timing, estimates, whatever you've got for the realignment of the road that we've discussed?
Yeah, so one of the things you don't see in a concept plan is all of those issues are resolved, but the realignment of the intersection will just have to happen over time. We have tentative agreement with the applicant to regrade a lot of this as he moves forward. We've estimated about a $10 million price tag to put that intersection realignment in place and create a new traffic signal right there. That funding is probably out 5 to 10 years. So to get all of that put in place, but we'll do everything that we can to make it all safe in the meantime. So there'll be a lot of great changes and things that happen to improve safety right here.
Visibility,
that
things
you're
like
not
that.
seeing on this drawing.
Now, on that note, what about the distance between essentially the driveway here and the next?
Yeah,
road?
that'll be pushed east.
Pushed east, okay.
And it's very steep right there.
Yeah, and we're anticipating a retaining wall. That substation is about 100-foot elevation higher. And I think it's probably higher than the top of the roof of what you're seeing. So, but we'll anticipate some retaining walls and stuff, and we don't have a full design on that, but we have a concept design that's probably about 50%. So it's a lot further along than this, but we'll build to that as we start taking material out of that hillside and push that hillside back so that we can tie that entrance in up higher and make it safer. But there are a lot of moving parts to this road. You'll see another piece of it later tonight. So this may not look like it does right now in 5 years. So it may happen quick. Indian Trailhead will always have access going up there to the parking area for those who want to hike. So that won't be impeded at all. So that's proposed to stay open.
Great. Thank you. Joel?
I'm thinking about the grade of that access road. Even if the access to the property is bumped further east, I'm concerned with how steep it is. I'm pretty sure the local mountain bike teams ride up here a lot for practice. Kids are going to be flying down going 30, 35 miles an hour. Kids don't always have the best judgment. And with such a long approach, I'm worried that cars also might not have the best judgment and think there's no one up the hill. There's no further development. There's no home. So I can just rip right out of here and turn on a canyon road. I'd like to see some kind of traffic calming measures, like a speed bump 2 feet back from the access, or something that's forcing people to actually stop and then make their right turn instead of just flying out of this development, especially with such a long approach. It seems like, I don't know, we see the way people drive.
So you're saying on the proposed driveway, I'll call it,
Yeah.
you think there should be a speed bump there?
Yeah. I mean, probably something on Indian Trailhead access road as well, just because of how steep it is. But yeah, I think especially coming out of the development, I think with so little being to the east of this currently, there's going to be like just sort of an easy default, like, oh, well, no one's going to be coming from up the hill. I can just fly right out of there, and then before you know it, a kid's on his Suron or whatever. And, yeah.
Okay, Ann?
Last time when this came up before us, it was about the height on those. I don't know if you guys remember that, but, and at the time I voted against it because I was like, you're just increasing the amount that can be built there, and what's to keep this developer from coming back and asking us to build even bigger. And here we are, and it's even bigger. We had a lot of community who came and spoke about it. And so that's one thing that I'm about. And then the other thing was, true story on those kids on the bikes. I've been on that road before going 35 and been passed by a young kid on a bike before. Passed me quite quickly. So the traffic, that would be great if we could get that enforced over there. But in any case, it is dangerous on that road. But I don't like that it's just like we're getting asked again to do the thing that we were assured it wasn't going to happen. There was a lot of talk about wildflowers being planted and landscaping. I remember that became something. And I'm like, okay, that's it. That's my comment.
Okay, thanks. I mean, I guess I have to go a little bit the other way. I remember the original one that was 66 units, if I remember right. And then coming down to the townhomes and then this one. And something I really like about this, couple of things I really like about it. One is I've long been saying that the new starter home in today's housing market is a condo, right? And yet time after time after time, we have people saying, I just want to rent these. I just want to rent these. And now we've got someone who's doing 3-bedroom condos that will be for sale. And that just feels like a good opportunity and a housing stock that we are missing in this city. I think the spot is good actually because it's somewhat isolated, because this building is not going to impose on a lot of other people. And in fact, this is one rare case where I like the parking lot in front because it's higher than the avenue. So like you mentioned, you won't see it. But what it does is it tucks the building into the mountainside. And I think it will make it feel not so tall and not so imposing. And so I think there's a lot of good things. I also am I get the safety concerns, et cetera, but I struggle a little bit with saying, we're going to make it so somebody can't develop their land, or we can't have this type of housing stock because a kid rides his bike too fast. Like, that's on the kid.
I think you're right about that. I'm just saying I would like to put a note in for the city to pay more attention to what's happening on the road
I think
by way of that.
definitely. There definitely needs to be improvements on that road, but I think that's outside of this project personally.
I'm also not saying I'm opposed to the project. I would just want to see very tangible safety measures taken because of the nature of this road.
Yeah, and actually I really like the speed bump idea. But yeah, so I think I agree. Improvements on Indian Trailhead Road, improvements on how this connects into it, et cetera, to make it as safe as possible. But it's not something that's going to make me say no to this project, right? And so, yeah, so I think there's a lot of things to like. And if we can get more developments to come in and say, I'm going to make 3-bedroom condos to sell, that's a good thing for our city, I think, going forward.
As much as I love that idea, I don't have a lot of faith in how it works in practice, because they can say these are for sale, owner occupied, but how do they enforce that? I think it might be really messy and end up being 3 bedrooms with 2 people in each, and we don't have enough parking for that.
Don't we require rental licenses though? So.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who just don't do it. So like,
but that's true citywide. I mean,
right. But are we contributing to the problem by making more giant units that can be rented to?
I think you could argue any apartment then is
every house,
right,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay,
and I think
it's not necessarily the golden ticket, is all I'm saying, because it could be misused.
It's not going to be perfect, but I do think if he just came and said these are going to all be rental units, it would automatically be less, right? It will be better than that. So yeah, and actually I learned recently this 50% owner occupied requirement. There is an incentive to enforce this. I didn't know this, but
stay a very long time. So if there are renters renting from a owner, they're staying for years, not months.
They're not transient. Yeah.
They're not transient like other places. So the people that stay there, they're part of the community. They engage the community. I've always liked this version of the projects that David's brought. I think it does speak to a lot of the issues of that hillside. I mean, it's kind of an eyesore. What this does for it, I don't think this is dramatically bigger in total kind of effect on the street than all the townhomes, although the unit count is quite different. But I'm in support of this, knowing what else needs, it said in here some kind of structural hillside kind of components. We've already identified some of the traffic at the intersection, but I don't know how you build this without doing some of the connection to the new intersection, because if you try to do that later, I don't know how you pull it off and still have people being able to get into the building. So I think there's a lot of logistics that David's already identified as needing to happen that will happen. I think we've already heard that the development agreement will be modified but stay in place. Those are the things that make me feel pretty good about what this does for this location.
So if you were to support it, what kinds of recommendations would you like to attach for that, for the city council to consider? We can't dictate a development agreement, right? That's outside of our hands, but we can say, hey, you should consider, for example, parking or traffic calming measures or.
I've written down the things we've talked about. So the road, I agree with you, should be aligned to the future plan and not this plan. Like build it out to where it's eventually going to go from the get-go. Traffic calming prior to the driveway intersection with Canyon Road. And I like the idea of also the Indian Trailhead Road, but I don't know if that's.
But if the new alignment's in place, that might not be even
that
an
might not be
issue.
a problem. And then reconsidering the parking so that there's adequate parking for visitors since there's no overflow available. Those would be the three things
I think the height and unit count would be important as well.
Limits on size, like
as defined, defining so that when specifically to what Aaron identified, well, the conversation we kind of had, right, that if the zone changes and it's got to be matched to a new zone, but the project hasn't started, then we don't want a whole new something brought that we didn't get to see. So
it now has rights to build it.
Right.
I would also like something that promises that the landscaping will look like this. So the hill won't be brown anymore. It will be green.
The entire hill.
I feel like that should be in writing.
And pink trees.
My
pink
point
trees.
before though was now that it's got a new zone, what's to stop it from getting bigger than this? That's my point.
It's the development agreement, so that's why.
So the conditions we talked about.
Which
putting that in.
we had one of those before. That's what I'm saying. See what I'm saying?
There was one. I think that's the only reason why we can even get away with talking about it, kind of thing. But we don't know what's in it, and we don't have a right to require things in it. All we can do is say, City Council, you should consider these issues and make sure there are assurances, and just leave it to them and the developer.
And to your question, just because they're coming and asking for more doesn't mean they automatically get it. So that development agreement is still in effect for the 16 units. They can't just go build anything more than 16 units. So yeah, they could come back and ask for 100, but they would have to go through the process and have us deem that it meets the code. Does that help answer your question about the development agreement locking the density in actually does work? This is them asking for it to be changed.
I think you should vote, like if you're not comfortable with the density, then a no vote would be entirely appropriate.
Right.
And to say I'm
like
comfortable with the lower
5 years
density.
or 10 years. Okay, well, we're going to put another unit there because we've already been zoned for that. And we're going to put another unit in. Do you
They
see?
couldn't with the development.
They can't. It will lock them in. They would have to come back and do this all over again
Which
if
is
they
why we
wanted to
asked for the
change it.
max number of units.
One thing I do like about this is from Mr. Ardmore's report, this does meet all the standards. He went through every requirement and it meets all the standards. So I feel like that takes a lot of there's maybe things about the concept plan we would like to be fixed before it comes in project plan. But if we're really trying to interpret the ordinance, I feel like this meets the general plan. It meets the zoning intentions. So if we like the idea of changing the zone, this is in line with what the general plan has deemed appropriate for the area and the neighborhood plan for that matter. So that was useful for me.
I guess the only comment I have is like, I don't disagree that this type of housing type is needed. You brought up the idea of an empty nester coming in and you know, I could easily see someone without kids taking a place, have one room for their bedroom, one for an office, a third for a guest. But then I look at what about families? Is there a play area for young families? There's no amenity requirement doesn't appear to be that this requires any amenity areas for kids to play. So I'm have some reservations with that, but that's just part of the zone. But that's the only comment really.
That's a good comment because the other zones do have amenity requirements. So does this pro zone not have any? Can you tell us about the amenity requirements?
So the Arbors on the Avenue does have an amenity requirement in it that typically isn't addressed at concept plan, but would be enforced during the project plan. I would also note, we've talked a lot about height. He's staying under both zones, the current MDR zone and the proposed pro zone with this concept plan, which would also be locked in to the development agreement. So I think that all these things are covered by either the development agreement or the zone language. We're not seeing all those details at this point because it's a concept plan and we don't require those. But we feel pretty comfortable that if the council does approve this, those would be met.
Great, thank you. That's helpful. Matt?
While you're there, sorry, Aaron, I'm thinking about parking a little bit more. A while back, we reviewed a project and I thought the parking requirement wasn't per unit, it was per bedroom. But I thought David said that this was per unit and it didn't change whether it's a 2-bedroom. Can you clarify that for me? Help me
Yeah,
remember
so
what
it's
actually happened.
That was a different zone. So,
okay.
So depending on what zone you're looking at and what use you're looking at, for example, student housing has different requirement for parking than family housing.
Okay.
So yeah, it just really depends on what the underlying zone standard is.
And so do we have data? So this is what does it say?
2.25 per unit.
Per unit. So
the
So the 0.25 is kind of imagining visitors.
Yeah, the 0.25 is supposed to, over the amount of units, satisfy visitor parking, and then assuming that 2 cars will be assigned to each unit.
And is there any, I know we've talked about parking a lot off in our work meetings as well, but is there any way to enforce how they do this in the development agreement or in other ways in terms of not charging extra? Right. How do we make sure they don't just go park? I mean, it's not convenient, but park up at the Indian Trailhead parking lot or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's been brought up with this fund. There isn't really a good adjacent parking.
Right.
Parking at the trailhead, you could only park there for a certain amount of time before you get a ticket, right? So I think in this case, it's gonna be managed within their HOA. And so it'll be in their interest to self-police.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, are we ready for a motion? Lisa, you have the list. Do you want to make a motion on that?
I'm looking for the words.
Right here.
Oh, here we go. I
got
got
it.
it. Yep. Okay, this first one, item 2, is one that we can approve or deny outright. And my recommendation based on our discussion is that this is consistent with the code. So I would make a motion that we approve the proposed concept for a 46 unit condo development at 5568 North Canyon Road. Subject to approval of the zone map amendment in the next item. And then I think because we want these attached to the concept plan, would I list our requests at the zoning?
I would say
change?
it's zoning because you're suggesting that the council address those in a development agreement, right?
And so that would be something that they could use a tool for. Okay, so just that we approve this item.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay.
Matthew.
I think it's okay as long as we make sure the parameters for that development agreement are, the council is advised.
Right,
to
which will be the
please
next
try
item.
and stick to the development agreement.
I'll list those when I do the item 3. You good with that?
Okay, go ahead and begin voting.
Aye.
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 I'll vote aye. So item 2 passes unanimously.
Okay, you all right with me doing item 3?
Sure.
All right. Once again, I think that this proposal matches the goals of the general plan. So I will make a motion to recommend approval of the proposed zone map amendment from the MDR zone to the Pro A10 zone to the city council. And the things that we would like them to make sure they include in a development agreement would be that the road gets aligned to match the future road plans. That traffic calming measures are put in in that area prior to the driveway intersection with Canyon Road. That they make sure that parking for visitors is included since there's nowhere for overflow. and that it locks in the maximum height and unit count.
Do we
Did
have
I
a
miss
second?
anything?
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion on the motion? Any missing items?
The couple that I mentioned, if I would like to say substantial conformance to the plan in general. So that what they do is substantially conforming to this. And the second one is that as I look at parking and things and spaces, consideration for snow storage and removal.
Did you add that to the list? Consideration for snow storage?
Okay, any other comments on the motion? So we've officially added those two items to the list of recommendations. Okay, begin voting.
Aye.
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 And I'll vote aye as well. So item 3 passes unanimously. Okay, with that, we'll go to item 4. Dudley and Associates request preliminary subdivision approval for a 2-lot residential subdivision in the R18 zone, including a variance request to Provo City Code 1505-160, located at 2132 North Carterville Road. There you are. And Jessica Danicky will present it for us.
Thank you. Yes, we're here for a variance, which normally they would go to the Board of Adjustment, but because this is a variance regarding slope, we're bringing it to the Planning Commission. So this project originally started as a rezone, but the applicants have changed. We are just doing a single family home on each of the proposed new lots. The subdivision process is completely reviewed by staff. Their proposed lots meet all code requirements, so there's no concerns there. This lot, as you can see in the city information for slope, there was a lot of slope existing on the lot. So as part of that, we require a geotechnical report and a slope analysis. The second image is the slope analysis that the applicant uploaded, which shows that a majority of their lot is in 30% or greater slope, which is different than what our information shows. David Day can explain to you why our information is just a rough estimate. But clear, you can see they will be disrupting the 30% slope, and that's why we're here for this variance. As part of their geotechnical report, and the whole purpose of the geotechnical report is to get a recommendation of if this lot can be built on safely. Their geotechnical report has been reviewed by Public Works. They feel that it meets the standards for the lot to be built on safely. The criteria for approving a variance there are 5 criteria for it. The first is that there's a literal hardship. In the case with this lot, it's unbuildable unless a variance is granted. The second criteria is that there are special circumstances that do not apply to other property owners in the district. This is the only lot where it's completely unbuildable without maintaining or obtaining a variance. The third is that a variance is essential to enjoying a property right that other property owners have. Again, this is the only property that cannot develop a residential single-family home without a variance. The fourth criteria is that it's not substantially affecting the general plan, which the general plan has this area proposed to be residential. As I said before, it's perfectly in line with the existing zoning code. And the last is that the spirit of the title is observed. The purpose of not building on a 30% slope is we don't want unsafe developments, and the geotechnical report certifies that that can be safe. So this is everything that I have. If you have any questions, please.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Go ahead.
I have 2 questions for you. Are the 30% slope rules the same as the hillside overlay rules?
No, the hillside overlay does have additional requirements with it. This is not in the critical hillside
So
overlay.
it makes it easier.
Correct.
And then if the lot isn't subdivided I'm looking at the second map, not this one.
Yeah.
It looks like the whole thing's unbuildable.
Correct.
So subdividing it, not subdividing it, it would
It's
still require
all-
a variance.
Yep, it's all unbuildable.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, is there any concern about, I don't want to call them potential downstream effects to the access road, any drainage or erosion or those kind of considerations that need to be worked through?
Nothing that was brought up with the CRC report. I don't know if David can speak to any possible concerns with that.
Yeah, David Day with Provo Public Works. We keep a map of slope analysis, which is done by LiDAR, which is close, but it's not perfect. So we have the applicant create an actual slope map. They actually identified more 30% slope than we were aware of. We've looked at this in much detail with geotechnical reports, slope analysis that makes sure that what they're planning to do is stable when they're all done. And they've satisfied all of our concerns with what they're proposing to build here. And so we've gone a lot further on this than we would normally go at this point to be able to present this to the Planning Commission and feel comfortable that we can support what they're trying to do here. It's still up to you whether to grant that variance to 30% slope, but everything that we've reviewed and have looked at looks good. They've done a great job of addressing all of the issues.
So thank you. So just a couple more specifics. So during the construction phase, is there any special considerations that need to be taken care of for that?
Yes, they have. Their foundation is a special foundation that has to get down into the native soil. All of the drainage that goes off the back will have to be addressed and captured. That access road that you're seeing to the back is actually the parking lot or the back of Walmart. If you're ever to drive back there, you would see that. But there's also a lot of undesirable things that happen in those woods. It's so dense that once that gets all tore out and they fence it, it'll get rid of those undesirable things. So there's a lot of pluses to this.
So the other issue there is as you tear out all that vegetation, is there any specific ground cover that's going to be required to prevent erosion?
Yeah, they'll have retaining walls and then they'll have to revegetate. But most of it'll be just part of their yard. So it'll be take care of themselves.
Any concern about the street access, the driveway from Carterville Road? How steep will that road be?
Yeah, so they'll come in at street level and then they'll have multiple floors below that get down to native ground.
Parking will be at street level?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Garage at street level?
Garage at street level. They'll pull right in and they'll have garage and some living space on the main level there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Very, very difficult piece to build, but the applicants did a great job of working with that, addressing all of our concerns. So.
Great. Any other questions for David before we have him sit down? Joel?
So the geotech supports the building itself being safe to develop, but I am curious about those downstream effects. Like, it looks like right now this is heavily vegetated. You pull all that out. Are you going to have downstream effects? Are you going to have increased sedimentation? Are you going to have runoff issues? How is this going to affect properties downslope?
So the property downslope is asphalt parking lot. But between the parking lot and the property, there'll be a retaining wall that raises the elevation about 10 feet. And then they'll flatten that off to make their backyard. So once that all gets vegetated, we're not anticipating any, if you look at a 30% slope, you think, oh, wow, the water's going to run off and create a lot of trouble. But theirs will come to a flat area in the backyard.
I guess my concern is right now it's a 30% slope, but it's so heavily vegetated with trees that's absorbing a lot of any
Yeah.
runoff, and you put in grass and impervious surfaces for the driveway and the home itself. And yeah, I guess I'm just concerned about some of that.
Yeah, so the front part of the house will drain out to Carterville and all of the roof drainage. And then so all of the landscape area would be the only area that would get precipitation on it. And that would just be whatever comes from the sky or is sprinkled. Yeah, so a lot of it's controllable.
Okay, Matt? You're good? Okay, thank you, David. Any other questions for staff, Lisa?
Jessica, you worked on the station area plan.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if this is the property that we were talking about, maybe having stairs come down to connect the neighborhood to the station.
It's the parcel directly south that's owned by Walmart, so this doesn't interfere with that opportunity.
Okay, I just want to make sure we didn't need to say, hey, don't forget to put that in. All right, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions for you. Thank you very much. We'll now invite the applicant forward at this time. And you'll have 15 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you for giving time to the young adult sector of our community. I'm Roger Dudley. I'm the engineer for the project. The Jolly family are the applicants, actually. They actually have owned this property for a number of years. They built the two homes that are north of this. Their family members occupy that. Their hope is to build here for themselves and to move back into their community. They've lived in this neighborhood for a number of years. We started out with the proposal to do two twin homes. That would have entailed a zone change. The neighborhood was a little opposed to that. So we've come back to the idea, the proposal to build two single-family homes. We recognize the challenge that it is to do that, but as I travel around Provo, I see a number of homes, beautiful homes being built on slopes similar to this. The other advantage to this is that, of course, the Jollies have owned this property and concerned about maintaining it if it's not developed. The trees that are there are trash. A lot of them are falling over. There's quite a maintenance issue to taking care of them. So this will be a positive for that. There's a little bit of homeless concern that some of this area is being used for those purposes, and this will eliminate that as well. We think it's a good proposal. We think it's a win-win for the neighborhood and for Provo. Happy to answer any questions that you might have for me. The Jollies are here if you'd like to ask questions of them. They're available as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Go ahead.
So, Roger, were you connected with the geotechnical report that we see here?
No, those were done by individual geotech companies. Terra was the main provider of the geotechnical report, and then the city actually asked Geostrata to review that in detail, and Geostrata then had some questions for our geotech company, and those were answered. I believe we've addressed the concerns that was put forward.
And in the plans that you will subsequent to whatever happens here would submit to the city, you would set footing depths on your plan?
Yes, when the homes have not been completely designed yet, yeah, they will have specific structural requirements that meet the criteria in the soils report.
Okay. Yeah. I guess the one point I'll just emphasize to you is I read the soils report, this 2.5 feet below finished grade on a 30% slope seems insufficient.
I would agree with that. I think that there needs to be more than that. Some of that can be mitigated by the retaining wall. Walmart has come in and put about a 4-foot retaining wall behind their facility. most likely we will do the same and help to mitigate that as well.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Yeah, I don't see any. Thank you very much. We'll now open it to the public for discussion. Do we have any neighborhood or district chairs present tonight? Okay, not seeing any. We'll open it to the general public for comment. You'll have 2 minutes to make your comments. Okay, also not seeing any. We'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. What thoughts do we have?
Seems like an appropriate, good idea for the lot size. The slope's difficult, but there are ways of addressing that. So I'm a proponent.
Yeah, my only concern would be the geotechnical and the engineering and the footing depths, but I'm certain that the city staff will take care of that and make sure that it's built well. Any other thoughts? Joel?
Maybe this is a question for David. Is stormwater retention on site a requirement for development, or?
Yeah, so for a single family home, you're required to keep all of your stormwater on site. You can't drain onto your any other property owner, so they'll have to figure out how to keep that on their site.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's my primary concern. Growing up, we lived across the street from a home that was built on a 30% slope, and they ripped out all the trees, and the runoff was so bad that my parents lost half their front yard. So like 10 feet a year we're eroding into the creek. So I've seen what goes wrong when water is not retained on site. So I just want to make sure that's, yeah.
Okay, are we ready for a motion? Gonna take it?
Sure.
Awesome.
And this one is for us to vote, right? Not to recommend to city council. Okay. So thank you. I move in regards to item 4, Dudley Associates request preliminary subdivision approval for a 2-lot residential subdivision in the R1.8 zone, including a variance request located at 2132 North Carterville Road, that we approve this proposal as it is consistent with the city code.
Second. I'll second.
Okay, so we've got a second. Any discussion on the motion before we vote?
I guess just to point out that we're actually doing two things. We're approving the subdivision and approving a variance in one motion.
Right. Okay, we'll begin voting.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
No.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye as well. And so it passes. Now I got to count how many people we have. 7-1 on this item. Okay. Do we need a break before we continue on here? We ready to move forward? Okay, so we'll go ahead and move forward with our last set of items here. Reza Fakhrieh, I'm sorry, I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly. Requests a zone map amendment from the A1.5CH, which is the agricultural with critical hillside overlay zone, and OSPR, open space preservation and recreation zones, to the A1.1CH, RA and RACH zones for a residential development with 64 lots and 38 townhomes located approximately at 5450 North Canyon Road in the North Timpview neighborhood. And Jessica is also going to present this one.
And also if you could read in item 6.
Oh, yes, thank you. Reza Fakhrieh requests concept plan approval for a 155-acre residential development with 64 lots and 38 townhomes in proposed A1.1CH, RA, and RACH zones located approximately at 5450 North Canyon Road.
Thank you. To start off, we just want to highlight that a change has been made to the proposal. The area that you see very roughly outlined in green, the property owner for that piece of land has asked to be removed from the rezone and concept plan. So that brings the proposed area down to about 152 acres as opposed to 155. Other than that, there's no change to what they're asking to be zoned or the general concept that they are proposing. So for this area, the current zone is predominantly OSPR and agricultural, as you read in. The general plan map for this area is a mix of residential on the lower portion closer to Canyon Road and then agricultural as you go up into the foothills. And then the Northeast Neighborhood Plan also proposes a mix of residential agriculture and agricultural for the zones for this area. The applicant is proposing in the blue area, which is about 124 acres, be zoned agricultural with the lot size requirement of 1 acre. The orange area is the residential agricultural. The minimum lot size requirement there would be 1/2 acre. And then the green area is residential single family with a 20,000 square foot lot area. In addition to 3 zones, the applicant is also proposing to put the Critical Hillside Overlay across the entire project and the Performance Development Overlay, again, across the entire project. As you saw with the above previous slide, these zones are in compliance with the general plan map. The concept plan was originally for 102 units. With the removal of that approximately 3 acres, it will bring their allowed density down. The original density does exceed the limits for the underlying zone, but the bonuses that are allowed through the PD overlay and the Critical Hillside Overlay did bring them up to that number. So that will still hold true. Even with the removal of those 3 acres, it brings their allowed density to 96 units instead of 102. You can see here how they've roughly shown where roads will be and the general breakdown of the lots. Additional considerations for this concept plan and rezone. The applicant has proffered a development agreement to go along with this. They will, much like the Bragonje project, they will work that out with staff and city council to get all of the criteria in that development agreement. Additionally, this rezone and concept plan, again, like the Bragonje project, is just the first phase. A project plan will have to come back to you for final approval. So while their concept plan doesn't have every detail addressed yet, there are plenty more review opportunities and your final approval with the project plan. The few items that we still feel need to be addressed are any possible concerns with the geotechnical report, getting all of the details to make sure that they are meeting the common area requirements and performance design standards in the PD zone. They have uploaded a write-up addressing how they will work that into their plan if they get a rezone. Meeting the design standards for the Critical Hillside Overlay and the clustering requirements for the Critical Hillside Overlay. And then lastly would be resolving any infrastructure concerns. Those are, as David had mentioned previously, those are usually discussed in more detail at the project plan level. Do you have any questions for me?
Great, thank you for that. Any questions for staff? Bill?
Does this interact with the wildfire urban interface at all?
Our fire marshal has reviewed it and hasn't had any concerns for wildfire interface. That was something, the email that Aaron read in, that was one of the concerns that the public had mentioned and was also mentioned at the April 1st neighborhood meeting. But our fire marshal is comfortable with what he's seen in the concept plan.
Go ahead.
Yeah, were any of these properties contemplated in any recent annex in the last 5 years?
This is part of the annexation that came before you back in November and was approved in December by City Council. This is, yeah.
Any other questions?
So are there any slopes that are over 30% in this that will be affected with this plan? Do you know what percent would be?
I know that the applicant has a slide that has that information. Yes, there are 30% slope in that area. I can go back to the concept plan. The area that's in yellow is area of 30% or greater slope. The area that's in the green color is area that is less than 30% slope.
Okay, Lisa?
And item 5 staff report. Page 5, I can't even see a number. It's just in the discussion. It says, would the rezone exclude land that is currently being used for agricultural use? And it says staff response, no. So does that mean it's currently used agriculturally or not?
So that was, the staff report was published before the other property owner removed that parcel.
And that was the one that
That
applied.
parcel is the one that was used as agriculture. Nothing else being proposed is currently used for agriculture.
Can you explain the lot sizes to me? Because I'm under the impression that an R120 would need to have a 20,000 square foot
Yes.
lot, right?
Yeah, that's where the PD and the CH overlays come into play. Both of those zones allow for clustering. The PD specifically allows for townhomes, provided there's not more than 6 to 1 building.
Okay, so it doesn't actually mean there's going to be 1 unit per 20,000 overall. So those 6 units would have to be on 120,000 square feet of land, or that acreage doesn't apply.
Right. So they are to stay within the base density calculated by however much land they're proposing for the zone. So if they have 20,000 square feet, they can have 1 unit. If they have 40,000 square feet, they could have 2 townhomes next to each other, and then the rest of it be
Okay,
open
so what's
space.
the total acreage? I know you said it on your first slide, but I didn't write it down. That's being proposed as R120.
Yes. Right now, I believe it's been brought down to 5 acres.
So that's plenty to have 6 units.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with the agricultural 1 acre lots. They're
Yes.
clustered so that they are the equivalent of 1 per acre, but they're actually closer than that.
Yes. And in addition, both the PD zone and the CH do have conditions for allowing an increase in density, again, provided they meet those specific conditions.
Okay. Do you have worries? As I was reading through this, strikes me as a project that's not complete. There were a lot of did not provide this information or does not comply. So as a commissioner, I'm like, why are we reviewing this? Do you want to tell us what we should know there?
Yes, this is, as mentioned, we're dealing with 5 zones here. So this is a bit more of an involved project. And some of the details that we're asking for at concept plan level kind of become cost prohibitive for how complex the slope and everything is. The rezone itself has gone through CRC review, and all departments feel comfortable in saying this project has provided enough information that we believe the rezone is sound. They have also provided enough rough information showing things like density, consideration for open space. While we don't have the exact details for it yet, we feel the applicant did ask to be put on this planning commission, and we felt it was at a point that we had enough, we could bring it forward, even though it's not at what we would usually expect.
So to me, that answers the why I did not provide the information is there. But what about the parts where you say it doesn't comply? How do we justify those? Where are they? So specifically item 6.
Oh.
I have 4 things that you said doesn't comply.
Okay.
So the bottom of page 2, the CH overlay allows for lots to be clustered, provided they're smaller in area than the base zone allows. It also allows for a reduction of lot width and depth by 25%. The current proposal does not comply with all the clustering requirements.
Yes, so that is correct. It does not currently comply. With the removal of the 3-acre parcel, our applicant has actually already gone through, and his slides will show an updated version. The version I have before you was just the most recent one to be reviewed by the entirety of the CRC staff. He has addressed some of those concerns, specifically about having more than 30 units to 1 cluster. The only concern left that would prevent them from meeting the clustering requirement is that these lot sizes are not smaller than the base zone allows, well, in the A1 area. If that is the case with the rezone and concept plan, when it comes through for project plan, they just won't get the density bonus. But it doesn't affect the overall concept of single family lots and townhomes.
It will just affect
It'll
what project plan gets approved.
Yeah, the final density.
Okay, so that was two of the things that you had said in your report don't comply. The next one is on page 6 of item 6 regarding the Critical Hillside Overlay. And it says that slopes greater than 30% must remain in natural private or natural public open space. And the proposal has some areas of 30% slope being disturbed rather than remaining open space. So how do we address that?
Again, there's a few, it's shown a little bit differently, but if you look to call out a specific lot number 13, if you'll see there's 30% slope. Thank you so much, Sandy. There is 30% slope, a small section between the drive access that they're kind of showing in between the lot 15 and 14 and the buildable area there. This is another instance where if we can't find a way to mitigate that concern, they will just have to remove that lot.
Okay, because in order to build that access, they would disturb the slope.
Yes.
Okay. My last question is on page 7 in the cluster development section. You say these things are required, and then you say the proposal, and I can't tell if they meet it or don't meet it. So because your findings is that it doesn't comply, and I don't know if all of them don't comply or just 1 or 2 or 3 of them don't comply. So page 7 in the middle.
Yes. Yep.
It says lots are not currently smaller than what's allowed. So to me, that seems like that's a thumbs up, right? That's good that they're not smaller than what's allowed.
No, for the clustering
no,
development,
they need to be smaller.
That's the only one.
Okay, so that one doesn't meet it.
The other two, well, the townhome section, but that has since been resolved. The open space section, it does meet that requirement.
Okay. Number 2, that's open space townhome section. Okay, that's been resolved. Okay, so it's just the first one that doesn't meet it.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now invite the applicant to come forward, and you'll have 15 minutes for your presentation.
Hello, Reza Fakhrieh, Draper, Utah. So we are presenting the rezoning and concept plan for the Foothill Orchards. I think a lot of you have seen this over the past year as we were going through an annexation process. As Jessica said, and I'll go through this kind of quickly because I don't want to waste your time with duplication of what she said, but some key factors. We're in the Northeast Timpview neighborhood. The current zones, again, are OSPR A15, and we're A11, but now just A15. The proposed zones are A11, RA, and R120. We're in the Northeast District neighborhood development, and we've taken a lot of time and consideration to work with the local residents, the neighbors, and try to adhere to the Northeast neighborhood development principles to preserve the neighborhood character, respect, and integrate agricultural heritage, which is deeply rooted in this area, and support infill development that fits the neighborhood. Identify and mitigate development difficulties, establish a connected and safe road network, preserve and enhance trail access and open space, and reinforce the area as a gateway to the city. This is a vicinity map, shows the general location as you saw on Jessica's previous slides, and our Alta map showing the general vicinity. Again, OSPR and A15 are the 2 zones we're currently in. OSPR is what this property was brought in under the annexation. This shows the current zones. Again, Jessica went over that, where we are A15 and OSPR. And I don't need to get into the details, but A11 1 acre RA and R120. Jessica went through those. As Jessica mentioned, the majority of this, we are proposing a rezone from A1 into, or from OSPR into an A11 with a PD overlay and CH overlay, and then an RA zone with PD overlay and CH overlay, and then R120 with PD and CH overlay. This is the slide. The timer is kind of over the site data table, so I don't know if this is the slide Jessica was mentioning that gives some additional site data, and I'll let Todd get up and talk a little bit about any areas of disturbance, or he can get up afterwards. But the zoning area plan, the project site is down to about 152 acres now. It was about 155 before we had the 3 acres removed out of the R120. The A1 zone is 124 acres, and the RA zone 23, and the R120 now is about 5 acres. Again, this gives you an idea of other zones around us. There's an R120 zone that's about 200 yards away on Canyon Road. The A11 that is above in the foothill areas, and then the RA zone also above in the foothills to the south. This is the concept plan that we initially started with. Some of you might remember this from the annexation. We were looking at having townhomes up on the foothills. We were getting feedback along the way. We had various versions of this, and this was the original plan we submitted at the outset. There were much smaller lots, higher unit count, larger development footprint with broader hillside disturbances, fewer clustering constraints were applied at that time. But we've taken a lot of time to understand the key concerns that have been raised: density, visual impact, traffic, and public access. So we've been talking to community leaders, neighbors, and leaders in the neighborhood, as well as council and others, to make sure that we were taking concerns of what people had proposed prior to us and wanted to implement up here, and really take into consideration both the general plan and the guiding principles of the Northeast District. This is our current concept plan. So again, you saw this on Jessica's slide, but the residential lot count has been reduced nearly 70%. Larger lot sizes, which is, I guess, a little bit of a conflict with the clustering, but we felt like larger lot sizes made more sense because it would be less density on the hill, and that's what we were being asked for. So, so we're trying to comply with the critical hillside and PD overlay zones. The public trail corridor from the south boundary to the north edge is now defined. We're continuing to work with Parks and Rec to make sure that we continue to give access to local residents. All of these streets would be dedicated to the city and the infrastructure infrastructure within those streets, also city. So we're not trying to gate off anything or restrict any access. Actually, we're trying to provide further access with this road network up into the hillside to give people access to the great foothills that we have around this project. Water infrastructure design has been expanded beyond the project needs. So additional water capacity has been requested or alluded to by Public Works, and we want to comply and help with that to create further water capacity there. We've made sure that all these would be owner occupied, deed restricted, established for all units, prohibiting any type of STR, short-term rentals, and ADU provisions could be included where applicable, if code permits. I want to let Todd get up and talk about, he's our partner in this, Millhaven Homes, and a little bit about what they do as a Utah County-based home builder.
Thanks, Reza. I'm Todd Train with Millhaven Development. It's a sister company of Millhaven Homes. We develop properties. If you see our developments, we typically do large single-family custom home lots in Utah County, Wasatch County. But do I push? We have come in as a partner to help build the infrastructure. These are some of the homes in the area that we have done that would be similar to the homes that we would build on the foothills. Just infrastructure. We've met with all of the city public works departments talking about sewer, water. We're aware of all of the infrastructure needs. There's going to be some tanks up there that we know we're going to have to accommodate and help. Roadways, trail accesses. We're aware of the Indian Hills trail access. We also are planning to stub the road to the Provo City property up on the north end of this property. So there's even more trail access up on top of the hill. With that said, I think this is the end of our presentation. Do you have any questions for Reza and myself?
Great. Thank you so much, both of you. Questions for the applicants? Yeah, Matthew.
Right, just one. I'm sure it's been thought of, but at the very north edge, it looks on some of the maps like it's a dead end.
Correct.
That would be too long of a dead end for the fire department to ever approve. So where does that road actually go?
That road ties into the Provo City property, and then there would be a water tank right there. So we have been working with Public Works to address that. But
so you would pave?
We would pave right to the end of our property, and then Public Works will decide what they do with their property from that point on. We've talked about maybe even a trailhead access right there. So.
And it strikes me that that's too long of a dead end.
Correct.
So how do those people get out, or how does a fire engine turn around?
So we would have a temporary turnaround there if Public Works decides they're not going to do anything on their property. So we would have a turnaround on our property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain? I read that there's an internal trail network, so they don't have to go on adjacent public or private property. So can you show us where the trail network is, and can everyone use it? Is this like the Bonneville Shoreline Trail access is going through your development?
It's up above to the east.
Okay.
But you can see the Indian Trail. It's in green, all right there.
So it's beneath. But when you say goes through it, it's really around the perimeter.
Well, that's the existing trail. And then what we've been working with Parks and Rec is to continue to connect each of these areas through a trail network internally as well. So we have some open spaces you can see that goes through. And then the connecting between these two neighborhoods up above. And we've been working with Conserve Utah Valley and other individuals who are interested in this and coming up with a good trail system internally that would be all accessible.
So you envision trails eventually going through your open space areas that connect with the other trails?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you have anything that zooms in on the townhomes to see that layout a little cleaner?
No, the townhomes, I don't have anything in my slide, but the townhomes, we are very open to trying to find something that meets the general plan, the idea of some middle housing. We understand these are larger lots with higher end homes on them that might not be attainable for all individuals. We were trying to find something, again, take it off of the hillside and bring it closer to Canyon Road. We're very open to working with staff, with the commission, with council to get townhomes in any form that they would like. We're not married to any specific plan. We thought this would be a great place for a small pocket neighborhood of townhomes that would allow people to attain housing that couldn't afford some of the other housing that wanted to live in the area. So as of right now, we're open to working and finding a concept and a plan and exact designs. We proposed, we were asked to give an example of something, and we gave an example, but from a height standpoint, we could, go to whatever height the city wanted and commission wanted and staff wanted. So we're very open to that.
Okay.
And keep in mind, this plan shows the realignment of Canyon Road as was discussed in the previous application. And then that previous application would be right across the street near the substation from these townhomes.
And any feedback from the direct adjacent neighbors, right? Because these are farming, agricultural related, large.
I think
established
those
properties,
neighbors
right?
are here, and so I'd love for them to get up and speak. Yes, we've been speaking with them about it, and they're actually in the conversations we've had, proponents of this. They've lived on this road in this neighborhood in some cases their entire lives. We've driven around, look at other townhome communities on Canyon Road, and thought that this would be a good place for people, again, as the previous applicant was talking about, who may want to live in the area, whether they're first-time buyers or they're people who are looking to downsize and find something that is a little bit less maintenance and more attainable from a price point.
So thinking about it a little bit, have you looked at the traffic, what the traffic to Canyon Road is going to do with this development?
So we haven't done, and I can let Todd speak to this. At this point in time, we haven't done an official traffic count study. We're just seeing what zone we'd have and how much density there would be. And then we would definitely make that part of the next step in the process.
Correct. Yeah, we plan to, we've already started the process of a geotechnical study. We don't have that report back yet, but we're waiting to see what zone we get before we get too far down the process to realize we don't have the zone.
Okay,
And-
any other questions? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to the public comment portion of the meeting. Do we have any neighborhood district chairs present tonight?
Hi, my name is Bonnie Morrow, North District Board. I'm the North Timpview representative. And Reza's item was heard on April 1st, 2026 in the North District meeting. The chair is Sharon Mehmet. She's unable to attend this meeting, so I'm here representing. And I will read you what happened. Reza is asking for a zone change to develop 75 lots and 50 townhomes, which has been kind of adjusted and is in flux. The newly annexed property at 5450 North Canyon Road, the residents' concern, number one, traffic impact on Canyon Road and neighborhood streets. Two was construction impacts, with residents requesting that construction vehicles use the north entrance rather than the south entrance to this project near the existing homes. Conservation efforts and wildlife habitat and public access. The next item of concern was fire risk given the location in the Windy Canyon area and the 2023 general planning process where the majority voted to preserve open space in the foothills. As an option, a poll was conducted with approximately 50 attendees. Those favoring maintaining the zoning was 11. Those favoring the proposed project as presented on April 1st was 21. We are glad that this developer seems more willing to work on the less dense project with larger lots because it's less impact. Some of you will recall we have been here many, many years before this developer with the Bob Jones development, and this project is far superior. And that was felt in the meeting. The proposals that we've heard about developing a way to be able to hook up the trails in the future was very much appreciated. And the developer seems really willing to work with us, if we heard correctly, to help with the costs of needed infrastructure as well, meaning working with Parks and Rec to make sure we can get to those trailheads. We appreciate that he does not want to gate it. We appreciate that he wants those to have public access. I did tour with him to see exactly what was going on. Very concerned about disturbing the hillsides, and I appreciated that. That's why those lots are at 1 acre, so that the homes are not disturbing so much of those overlays that Jessica was talking about. Anyway, that is my report for that meeting.
Great, thank you. We'll now open it to the general public. You'll have 2 minutes to make your comment. Each person may make one comment. If you'd like to comment, please come forward now.
Brian Gillespie, Provo resident, a neighbor to this project. Over the years, as I've mentioned, we've seen lots of different iterations of this from different groups. This is by far the best one. If we're going to do one. Another thing to note, I'm the head coach of all of the Provo area high school and middle school mountain bike teams where we ride trails like crazy. This is a super great opportunity for Provo to provide better access to trails, more trails. You may or may not know Provo, in my opinion, is behind many of the other Utah County cities in trail development and access to trails. This provides a great opportunity for that. It's kind of a side note, but anyways, I think it's a pretty good plan for what it's worth.
Okay, thank you.
Kyle Gillespie, Brian's brother. So our family has owned property here for hundreds of years. So we have 13 acres right in the center of this project, and we're in favor of it. We currently it's agricultural operation, and our only concern is we just want to make sure it's not isolated in the future if we ever decide we would like to develop, but we're currently not developing. So that's our main concern. So just don't want to be isolated for future development.
Sorry, we have a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Can you point out on this map which is yours
Right
so
there.
we can make sure that
Right
it's
there. Right there. That's right where the red. Yeah, so there's 13 acres there. And then my mother has 5 acres a little bit lower. It's not, I guess, just down. So right there. So
okay. Where is your access right now on Canyon Road? How you getting?
For her, yeah, she lives on Canyon Road.
Okay.
So, but the access concerns are for the upper 13 acres, you know.
And where does it connect?
it looks like that road goes
Well,
through it right now.
It's been part of the plan on and off. So there's option B, there's a road right through our property. So we just want to make sure we have access. And I'm sure this plan will change as things go on, but we just want.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Any other comments on this item tonight?
I'm Jenny Smith. I'm one of the neighbors here. We have property to the northeast of this and right near the townhomes. And it was interesting, when I was on the neighborhood TAC committee for the neighborhood plan, we had a conversation about this very spot right here, sorry, about if there could be some more smaller, we've talked about having bigger homes and using the advantage of using the hillside and having bigger homes. And then we talked about having something smaller for people who want to retire, people who want to downsize. And somebody asked, well, what do you think about that? What about, and I said, I would love that right next to my orchard. So we have an orchard right there. I said, that sounds like a neighborhood. So it's kind of interesting. That's what it turned out to be. Yeah, the neighborhood committee was the focus that we got from our neighbors that they wanted in the plan was about a reasonable development. We had so many crazy ideas, especially through Bob Jones, that just were unreasonable and didn't fit the neighborhood. And we wanted larger lots, single family homes. Home ownership is really important. We want neighbors that would stay and become part of our neighborhood. Trail access was huge, and keeping ag as desired, the people that would like to do that, that was really important. And this hits all those points. I think the things that I've seen, the interactions we've had with the developers is just something that really fits. Sometimes we all say, well, we like things to stay the way they are. Let's have open property forever and do whatever. But the fact is that things go on, and this is, we think, is reasonable. We think it's going to be a nice addition, and the neighbors that want to do something with their property are going to be able to do it and not be interfered with, and be happy in the end with it. So that's my comment.
Great, thank you.
Bonnie Morrow, North 10th neighborhood, speaking as a resident. I was also on the neighborhood planning board for this master plan. I was on it with Jenny Smith, who just spoke, Jessica Danicky, myself, Bill Pepperone was chaperoning over it, and Aaron Ardmore. So we took about a year to get through this plan and leave no stone unturned. And I have to tell you, according to our master plan and everything we were trying to achieve with state mandates, city mandates, neighborhood desires and wants, this plan hits the closest of anything we have seen. And so, you know, I usually don't say that when I'm up here, if you know me. So this has really been, if we can stick to this and it doesn't morph into something else, I think we really have a good plan here because it is following the neighborhood master plan. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keaka Hanamaikai, I think it's a good plan. I don't know if pushing all of the traffic to that north end is going to be very helpful. Especially with that other project. I think that's a mess already. You can't even turn left there yet right now, right? You guys removed that. You can't even go back south on University Avenue from Canyon Road. There's still people that don't know that. There's not any signs that actually say that we changed the turn lane there. So you still see people, might be a thought, to direct them. So that before they would go all the way down and then they could take a left back down south. There's no wording that there was a traffic change. Anyway, just one thought. The other thought is that I think Reza and them have done a great job. Nate, we've come and talked to my wife's family who owns some of the property in the proposed area. And I think they've been very reasonable. I would say that I appreciate their concern. Possibly maybe making the road on the south end bigger might be a better option for the development. I mean, I was just taking irrigation there yesterday and I'm riding a four-wheeler on a dirt road that people have no access to. Well, they're not supposed to, right? And I'm having to be careful on a road that I have access to, right? Random people that cross, we have Alex Groh here, who probably could tell you about the cemetery and people going through there. He had to trench a spot because so many people were getting through. So again, I think he's done a good job. And we're all up for, as long as they keep doing things responsibly, I think the proposal has gotten better with smaller amounts. And I don't know, seems like the parking issue is more of a problem on that north.
Thank you.
Scott Smith. We're actually part of this development on 9 acres. And as far as agriculture, that's our interest up here. Reza has been terrific to work with and support not only the point of agriculture. I kind of like the name of the development, by the way, Foothill Orchards. We have orchards in that foothill and row crops. And I'm looking at a couple of faces. Daniel Gonzalez and Melissa Kendall were here. I know when we annexed and we're talking about still moving forward with the APA. I appreciate that from the city. Every aspect of this, and even those acre lots. And so I'm going to make some points that nobody else did. Those acre lots will have ground that you can
do a family garden on. And there's other parcels of ground that weren't mentioned up here that have power lines or other restrictions that could be farmed, may get access to Smith ditch water at some point. And then also another point that wasn't made, that little purple dot in the corner on the north end. Yes, that one. That's a city water tank at 5375. That will service everything that's not been developed on Canyon Road. Nobody mentioned that. I'm mentioning it. There will be no further development over toward above the preserves in that area until they have that tank. And they're proposing, and they've been working with us, the city and Todd from Millhaven. We went over this area. On the top, we'll have a tank at 5575 that would service the higher area. The one on the city tank on the city property. The road was mentioned going over there. There won't be any development on the.
Thank you. Your time is up. You've taken your time. Thank you. Any other comments on this item?
Good evening. I'm Steve Turley, and oh no, I hope this will work. What's that? Steve Turley, City of Residence, Provo. I own this piece right here. It's just over 8 acres. And you'll notice that that road, right where that cursor is, that road that connects Canyon Road to the development runs through my property. Great, sorry about that. If you'll look at the staff report under the concept plan, item 6, page 20. I'm sorry, item 6, page 21. In the comments, it says, and I hope we can read off the same page, but it says provide 2 points of ingress and egress. Access must be shown as being completed with the development proposed. Completion of the accesses, quote, in the future, unquote, that are required for the development is unacceptable. We've heard from the neighborhood representatives that the neighborhood recommended to use the north access. I'm a little bit lost as to this key access that's missing, that isn't part of the development. There's no contract in place for it. There's been no dialogue about it. Is even being considered. If that access doesn't exist, there is no second access. There is no rezone. This concept plan fails. And if you'll take a look right here, this area right here is that 30% slope area. That's the only other alternative way to get to this northern slopes, and you can't cut through the 30% slopes. So my ask is to clear up that item before this moves forward any further.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, not seeing any. We'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion.
Should we ask the developer about this issue?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so if you look back in the presentation, if we can go back to the very first one, it does show, oh, no, go forward. It shows the road completely on our property right there. When talking to Public Works, we changed it to where the current access is to the tank, and it does Mr. Turley is correct. It crosses his property, but if he were to cut that off, it would cut off access to the Provo City tank that is right. Can somebody point at that? Actually, right there. That is the current Provo City water tank, and the access comes up that road and goes above, and that's where we show it on the new concept. But if Mr. Turley, and keep in mind, we're here to get a rezone. We've got to work out all of these engineering concerns, and I get it. We're showing a road where the existing road is, and we've got to resolve that. But if we have to, we'll come back and we'll do this design right here. He brought up 30% through there. The code allows us to build roads on 30%. We just wouldn't have buildable lots on 30%. In fact, we have to cross a 30% right there as well, but all it is just a road access. So the code allows us to do that. And so we felt like it would be appropriate to move this forward, get zoning, and then start to work out these engineering issues. Yep.
Both Provo City and us as the developers here and landowners, Provo City has an easement through this property to access that tank. So there are easements in place, right of ways and easements in place for that roadway going up. And so that's been long established and in place. And so if this is being cut off, then Provo City's easement and access right of way to their tank would be cut off as well. So, but there's an easement in place for that.
Could we hear from the city on that?
Yeah, I have the same question. So David, as you're coming up, I'm specifically curious about if you have an easement to access a water tank, does that kind of transfer into being able to build a public road there, or is it more limited in that what the easement allows? How's that work?
So they've shown two accesses on a concept plan, and we're comfortable with that. And if they can't work out a purchase agreement for right of way, then we'll go a different way. So I'm not too concerned about that, because that's really a detail that gets worked out with a project plan approval. So we were comfortable with the zone change, knowing that we have
options.
This is one of 50 other issues that we'll have to deal with when we're getting down to final design. So it doesn't concern me, but
you wouldn't say having a water tank access guarantees that a road can be built there automatically.
yeah, we would have to look into that. We haven't ever looked into, they can't deny us access to get to the tank, but does that
allow anyone
go to everyone else? I don't know that it does. So we can still do our work that we need to do on the tank. And I think other property owners have rights to get through there also. Just don't know that that allows anyone in the public to drive through there until we get a dedicated road.
Okay.
And if we can't get it there, we'll have to get it somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for David while he's up here?
Just that I think I would feel more comfortable having some legal clarity on that.
Well, I think for me, the key is that there is a second option, so it will happen.
Yeah.
So, great. Thank you. Yeah, Matt?
So can I just clarify then? It seems to me with all the details that need to work out, what we're really focusing on is the zone, and maybe the concept plan is to help us understand some of these details.
Yeah, I think at this stage, if I
say?
mess this up, Bill, correct me, but at this stage, the concept plan is just to show you the general idea of what could happen in this area and what that might look like. And we're using that as a basis saying, hey, is this something that we support enough to make the zone change as part of this process? And it's tricky because to get more detail has very high costs, especially in something as complicated as this on a hillside. And so how much cost do you want the developer have to take if they're taking a risk that they won't even get the zone change? And there's that balance going on.
So. Yeah, okay.
So would it be appropriate to, if we agreed to approve the zone changing and then to continue the concept plan approval pending all the open issues associated with it?
Well, I think the key, again, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but project plan is where the details will get locked in, and we will see that later in the process. So concept plan, we're just saying general idea of, larger lots that are agricultural, that are kind of spanning below 30%, above 30% kind of areas with some roads connecting it, a townhome cluster. In general, is that something we're okay with?
So the reason I understand your point there, John, but the position of the road greatly affects the positioning of the townhomes. And so I would think that the townhome location would be critical to the concept plan because you had, all the things associated with this. That's why I'm feeling like I'm not ready to approve the project plan yet until we understand what the road is really going to be.
Well, not the project plan, the concept
plan, excuse me, I misspoke.
Bill, any comments on there?
That's a legitimate point, but if you continue the concept plan and move on the zone, the city council will go ahead and rule on the zone change. And then the developer will come back to you in 4, 6, or 8 months with a preliminary project plan. There would be no reason to go back to a concept plan. Once the zoning is granted, they would go straight to project plan, and then that's what you would see next.
So the concept plan really then isn't super necessary. It's just
to
help us out.
Yes.
I think for one way for us to visualize it is this current concept plan in contrast to the initial concept that showed higher densities, more lots. So, one's one vision and another's another vision. That's the way I'm looking at it.
But the concept plan then does provide information that gets tied into the development agreement, and that is consummated with the zone change.
So if there's things we really have concerns about, we would express those when we pass our recommendation to the municipal council on the zone change, so that they can draft up a development agreement or somebody can proffer one with things that will address the concerns we have that aren't shown in the concept plan. Is that correct? I just want to chime in here because there's still so many details that we'll see finalized. I'm not super concerned. I feel like staff and the developer answered questions about things that looked like they were unfinished business or not compliant. But one of the concerns, since I've been on the commission for a long time, and one of the first projects I saw was Bob Jones' development in this area, and proposal anyway. One of the things that people really screamed about was this is going to leave a huge scar on the mountain. It's going to be ugly from a distance. And I don't see this, even though it's a much nicer proposal, I still think that visually you'll see this from all over the valley. So if that was a concern then, that's still a concern to me now, that it's not going to be cutting up the hillside and making the hillside unstable, but it's still going to be a very visible subdivision from a distance and will make a mark on the mountainside. So I just want to throw that out there as the cost of hillside development.
Right. Reminds me of Red Ledges in Heber City. There's all these houses up on the hillside and you can see them from everywhere.
I mean, it's not going to look like Wasatch Elementary. It's not going to be a giant retaining wall from a distance, but it's going to be very visible. Instead of a hillside, there's going to be a giant subdivision up there. And then even if the lots are big, it will still be a whole bunch of houses on the hill. So that's something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, there is a plateau right here that you won't see. That's a pretty buildable, fairly flat area for a hillside. That's an area where you won't see a lot from down below. Other areas you will, like Ms. Jensen is saying.
So that is up top and not down below. I was thinking it was in a valley. Okay. Or I might have to look at it.
Yeah, Joe.
This just strikes me as rural sprawl. Lose agricultural uses, you lose open space in exchange for 75 $2.5 million homes that will all be driving in and out to access everything. You're not walking a days from here. Maybe walking to Will's Canyon stop.
Probably not.
It just, I mean, it's increased traffic, it's car dependency. This doesn't strike me as smart growth and smart development, where we're leaning on existing infrastructure, leaning on existing strengths that the city has. It's just building into our hillsides.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. This is kind of for me, this is a difficult vote. Because on one hand, you have seems like a lot of neighborhood support for it. On the other hand, I look at the initial concept plan that was thrown up, and it showed what seemed like a more diverse variety of housing types and lot sizes, which I feel addresses like a core principle of our general plan. So under the current concept plan, I would, I don't feel it meets some of those goals, and I'd probably lean towards a no vote on it.
Weren't single family homes what was planned up there? So I think it does lean into the plan. And if the neighbors are happy with it, it's got overwhelming support here tonight. I just feel like if these people who live around it like it, then who are we to say, oh, you need to live the way I think you should live? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, but we're exactly the recommending body that has that authority, and to advise and city council to make smart planning decisions that
right,
meet
but
all the
doesn't
needs
this
of
follow
that.
the general plan?
As does the initial concept plan. I think they both do.
Other thoughts? Yeah.
I'd just like to commend the developer for working hard with neighbors to accommodate and to, maybe not accommodate, it's not even the right word, to engage them in the process. I think we ought to celebrate that, whatever the real outcome when we see a project plan is. That's the kind of engagement that we want to see and celebrate, because you had people standing up and supporting a project that in the past, historically, would have been totally the opposite. So that's exciting to me that the process works and we've made progress, and congratulate. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll say I'm very torn on this one. I'm not a big fan of hillside development in general. Some of the things that Joel alluded to about losing open space, et cetera. At the same time, I think I'm a fan of kind of the wedding cake model of density, right? Where we pack density in the middle of town. And so on the edges, there are people that want large spread out lots. And that's the place to put those kind of things. And so I think as far as an edge of town, kind of agricultural area, hillside development, they've done a good job working with the neighborhood, et cetera, to get there. Just still a little hung up on just the general idea of the hillside going away in general. So hopefully I'm not the deciding vote tonight. That's what I'm hoping on here.
Well, but they're adding trails, right? They're connecting things. I mean, I was hiking up there just earlier this week. I don't see this as impeding my ability to hike around the hillside.
Agreed. That's something I like. Like I said, as far as a hillside development goes, I think you've done as good as you can. And in fact, the more spread out, even though I respect and understand Daniel's concern and generally would have the same one about not having a more range of lot sizes. If you're going to do that, here's the place to keep it sparse, right? So that you can still have
those lots be so big. Those lots be so big. I don't know.
No.
I have mixed feelings, but I like your comments about this property is on the periphery, regardless of whether it's townhomes or large lots. And it's never going to have a UTA route through it. It's never going to have a grocery store. It's the nature of it. So we have to go into with that in mind anyway.
Yeah, I guess I'd rather have sparse where you're not going to have public transit than something dense.
Right.
So, okay, well, I think we're a little bit divided, but Melissa, do you have some comments?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think we're getting some density with the other projects around there, so.
That is
I
true.
like the wedding cake concept.
Well, it's getting less dense the further up the hillside you go. You've got your townhomes clustered down by the other set of condos, and yeah.
One thing I will say is I think the city's going to have to figure out how to realign Canyon Road sooner rather than later. Find some funds somewhere. 'Cause this is all the developments in the area and the current uses are putting some demand there. It's just not serving well.
I guess that's my feeling that if we do develop the hillside, this is a good way to do it. And that in terms of we have the authority to send their way, yes, we do. We recommend one and approve the plan. I am concerned about traffic on Canyon Road, and with the two developments we've been talking about, if they are both approved and they both go through, I think we need to have some real consideration and working together to make sure Canyon Road, University Avenue intersection is appropriate, and just Canyon Road, traffic sitting on Canyon Road, and make sure what's going to happen with that as well, with this new pressure on that. But in general, I'm in favor of the zone change. I'm in favor of the development.
Can we ask the municipal council to come up with some cooperative plan for not letting development move forward until the intersection can be funded, so that the traffic is taken care of at the same time that development would occur? Is that something that the municipal council has the parameters to request of someone?
I personally welcome any funding to help build that.
No, it's not for you, Dave. It's actually for the road project.
But yeah, if they would fund that, we would build it right away.
Okay.
So
I'm just like saying we'd like to see some creative thinking to get guarantees that this will be done right the first time instead of 3 times. And
we have some creative thinking of how to get all of the ground roughed in. And we'll go a long ways with that. The relocating of power lines and other things like that costs a lot of money is kind of another issue. But
is that a city expense to relocate power lines, or is it like in Buckley Draw where the authority has to take care of it? It just takes time.
It ends up being a city responsibility. It's a state traffic signal, but on the side roads, the state makes the city responsible to fix those.
Okay.
They take care of the main road, and then we have to build the side roads.
So when you say removal of power lines, you're talking about on University Avenue and Canyon Road?
Yeah, there's some power lines that cross and are in the way on the west side. So we're working to try to get those relocated right now. If we're successful in doing that, then that lowers the cost to the intersection, because the power relocation costs for that were about 5 million, half of the estimate to do the intersection. So pretty significant.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, man.
Ask a question. I think this is for Jessica. When we saw the annexation, was that everything that's now like on that map, or are there properties that were annexed that are not now connected with this rezone?
There are properties that are not part of this rezone. The proposal that you're looking at, there's a little bit that's owned by the Smiths, and then the rest of it is owned by the LLC that Reza is representing. I believe they did ask if other people wanted to join in with this rezone, but they're just sticking with their land for development and rezone.
So this basically represents the annexation we've seen.
Yes, there we go. This area was also in the annexation. It's owned by a variety of different property owners. The Gillespies who came up and spoke, they own this area right here. But it is a majority, this LLC was a majority of the annexation in the first place.
Okay, but that section you were just highlighting was also
Yes.
annexed.
Correct.
Okay, that was my recollection, and my recollection tied to that was that even if they didn't want to be part of this development, they were actually pleased with the dynamics at work because it opened up future for them as well. Does that sound about accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's another consideration point of this, is that there are a lot of people who have tied their futures to whatever happens here, that I think they're at least appreciative of, if not excited about.
I don't know if it's helpful or not, but I would go through and list pros and cons and say the pros are the large lots that would still give it a more rural feel with a variety of sizes further west. The pros are the trail access and connections. I think that would be nice. My major con, if I were to put it on the opposite side, is just the visual effect of development on the hillside. And I know some of it will be kind of tucked up there, but it will still be different than what we see. And there were some that will argue that a scrubby old brown hillside is nothing to showcase, but
it's our scrubby.
Yeah, it's our scrubby old hillside. I don't know that it's hard to determine when it's right and when it's wrong. When we annexed it in, did we say, yeah, we'd love to see something here? Or did we say, yeah, we'd love to have you be part of our city as open space? And I don't know what, I think we probably were expecting development here.
I mean, I think annexation also means county activities couldn't take place, where you could see mining, gravel pits, that kind of thing. So it also blocked really unfavorable uses.
So I guess there's more pros than cons in my list.
So let's make a motion and see where we stand. Any volunteers?
I guess I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
On item 5, I move that that we recommend an approval for item 5, Reza Fakhrieh, can't pronounce his name, Fakhrieh, requests a zone map amendment from the A1.5 CH and OSPR zones to the A1.5 CH. Am I reading this right? RACHPD and R1.20 CHPD zones located at approximately 5450 North Canyon Road.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I think he said that it was rezoned to the A1.5 CHPD, but it reads A1.1 CHPD, just in case I heard that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so correction is noted. Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Nay.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and vote nay, since I'm not the deciding vote. So it passes 5-3 on this item. Go ahead to the next one.
Do we want to pass along reasons for nays so that the municipal council can weigh those in, or does that not matter?
I think I've expressed mine during it, my dilemma.
I could reiterate mine, but just like I favored something more in line with the initial concept plan.
Okay.
Joel, any comments?
Yeah, same as I already said.
Okay. So motion for item 6.
Can I ask a question just in a discussion aspect here? Because the first thing here, if we're going to approve it, it says the proposal is consistent with city code. Is there anything in the proposal that didn't line up with the zone that they're asking for? Are they asking for any exceptions?
No, since they went with the BD, that would have been the exceptions, but they
Yeah.
created open space.
But they are deficient in some categories because they just haven't figured out the detail yet,
Right.
right?
But their intent is to not be deficient.
Right.
I do think it
So-
would be wise to maybe note that in our recommendation for the zone change, that the deficiencies can be addressed. Right?
Because that having been said, I don't feel like I have any findings to deny them, aside from if they weren't intending to address them. But because they intend to address them and we have the review of the project plan, I don't feel like I have findings to say I deny this plan.
The only reason I would deny it would be if there's uncertainty about the location of the townhome units. If they're close to Canyon Road, I would approve it. If they're far away off in the corner, I would deny it.
But as shown right now, the zone that they're asking for that we just recommended for approval is closer to Canyon Road.
That does lock them in.
Yeah, and that's the only place they could do the townhomes.
Okay.
Well, I guess they could turn the whole thing into townhomes now that I've said that.
I mean, for a zoning change, we do have a lot of leeway, right? It's not about sticking just with the code.
Thank you. Okay.
In this particular case.
However they do is deliver through the.
Yeah.
This land is not.
I guess I'm just trying to find findings for our, because this is a yes or a no, and we're not recommending this to anyone. We're saying, yes, we like this concept
So
plan.
all single townhomes.
And for me, if it's linked to the zoning, so if the zoning is denied, then whatever we say doesn't matter. But if the zoning is approved, then what we say matters. And so if we say this matches with the zoning they've asked for without exception, then those are my findings to say, yes, I approve this project.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I may do something that's always feels inconsistent, but I may have hesitations about the rezone. But if the rezone goes through, then
You don't
this
have
is
a
not-
hesitation with the project.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Like I said, if they do a hillside development, I think they've done a good job of setting it up. I'm just hesitant about hillside
Right.
developments in general. So
And I agree. And so if my job is to interpret the code and interpret the intent of the general plan, and the city council agrees with the zone changes being appropriate, then I would approve this development based on
Yeah.
that. So
I'll
that
probably
having
vote
been
that way
said,
too.
I don't know if someone else wants to make a motion, but that would be my reason for making a motion to approve.
And do we have to articulate anything in particular about any of those deficiencies or that road or anything? We just trust in the process that'll all be addressed.
Yeah, the things we're straining over are, as far as I know, all in code. So they either have to meet those when it comes back for project plan, or they have to propose
A different
amendments to
plan.
the ordinance to allow what they're doing. So I don't think you need to specify those things. I think you just should rule on the concept plan.
Okay.
I'd be happy to make a motion.
Great.
I would like to make a motion for item 6 that we approve the concept plan because if the deficiencies we see are addressed, we find it to be consistent with city code. Or it will be, or else.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no, but I love the concept. It's beautiful.
Okay.
He's very confusing.
You can put out a great product and still not.
Have it be appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great product.
Okay.
Aye.
Are you calling for it?
Yep.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Okay. And I'll vote aye, because like I said, if the zone goes through, I do like this concept plan. So this one passes 6-2. Okay, now we have one item that is not on our agenda. The public can go. This is a commission item. We don't usually start them after 9:15, but I think this will be fast and it's important that we do it quick. So Lisa, do you want to talk about our item we got to discuss?
Yes. My term on the Planning Commission is up at the end of June, and I have been serving as the Planning Commission representative for the TMAC which is Transportation, Mobility and Advisory, Transportation and Mobility Advisory Committee. They meet once a month, the third Thursday of every month at the engineering building down in East Bay. So I will not be able to attend the May meeting and I will not be able to attend the June meeting. So I would like to not leave them empty-handed and would like us to send a recommendation or choose someone tonight to be our planning commission representative. That having been said, I think Joel would be awesome at it because he uses multiple modes of transportation and he would be very insightful and a good contribution to the committee. But that's just my opinion and you can take it from here as far as, I don't know, do we nominate one or does somebody just say, I'll do it? Okay.
Great. Okay, so that's what we'll do. So we have one nomination of Joel. Joel, do you accept that nomination?
Yep.
He does. Okay. Do we have any other nominations someone would like to put forward?
You can also nominate yourself if you have a burning desire to serve.
I'm
in this
nominating
capacity.
Melissa.
Actually, I can never make a Thursday meeting, so sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot to say, the meetings, they feed you lunch at 12 and the meeting starts at 12:30 and then it goes till 1:30. And they're pretty good about just keeping it to an hour. So
does that work for you?
And you can also Zoom in. So if you can't be there, you miss out on the lunch, but you can always participate via Zoom.
I might miss the lunch, but I can attend.
Okay.
Okay. Any other nominations?
I'll nominate Matt.
I just don't know that I can do it semester to semester.
Teaching schedules can get tough.
All right, we're back to Joel again.
But I support Joel.
Okay. Well, let's just do a consensus vote since we have one nominee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.
Good job.
Do we have a motion to dismiss?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't believe that Melissa was really sorry that she could